Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, and streaming. And it's game day if you are looking forward to going to see Thor, Love and Thunder tonight. I'm really curious to see what all you guys are going to say. It's so going to depend on how much you're able to embrace the silly humor. At any rate, by the way, just going to let you guys know that this Sunday, I'm going to be doing an open spoiler discussion for Thor, Love and Thunder, so keep your guys' eyes open for that. Sitting beside me, of course, the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, the boys' finale's tonight.
Oh, that's so.
And there's a new episode of For All Mankind.
So here's Ann and I, our schedule for tonight. We are, as soon as I get home, we're going to go see Thor, Love and Thunder again. And then as soon as we get home from that, we're popping on The Boys. So that's our evening tonight. It's a good evening.
I mean, we talk about, with all the craziness that goes on in the world, if you're a fan of this stuff, there's an embarrassment. There's manna from heaven falling almost every day now. I mean, think about it. You got a Marvel movie opening, you got The Boys finale, and you got the greatest science fiction TV show on in For All Mankind in one
And we
day.
just wrapped Stranger Things season 4, which was their best season so far. Good stuff is happening. Speaking of good stuff happening, Amy Newman's here today, everybody. Amy, how you doing?
Good. Happy to be here. What a time to be alive.
It's such a good time to be alive.
That's right.
And of course, for the rest of the week, we are sending our best well wishes to our own Chris Carr, who continues to be at home recovering from illness. We look forward to getting her back soon. Guys, joining you in the live chat today, if you're watching live, Ray Orr is here. Ray, how you doing?
So let me tell you my plans after.
Hot date?
I'm going to take my car, go get some gas, and then after that, I'm going to cry myself to sleep. Because, man, I'm trying to stretch out this gas right now till the very end, and I know it's going to be a big fill up. And
Yeah, you getting a full tank over there?
I got to get a full
Hey,
tank.
big spender.
Big spender.
You know. Well,
That's the nature of it today. And right over here, of course, somebody who has to drive 10 times longer than Ray does to get here. Producer Jonathan Voico. Jonathan, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right, everybody. How's everybody out there?
Yeah, I'm just curious, like how hard is it for you to hold yourself back from punching Ray when he's complaining about gas?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a 20-mile round trip every day, and you're talking about 5 miles. That's great.
Anyway, guys, and it is great to have you here, and here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break the show down into 2 parts. In the first half of the show, we're going to talk about some predetermined topics. Then in the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. The way you get a live comment or question on the show is easy. Number 1, you got to be watching live. Number 2, once we get to the end of our main topics, we'll announce that we're opening up the super chats. Once we do, you guys can fire in your thoughts, opinions, comments, critiques, theories, questions, whatever. Send those in, and we will spend the second half of the show reading those off. Now, before we get to all that kind of stuff, let's get into our main topics here today. We're going to start with some off the tops. And our first off the top is this. You know, when you look at the history of Hollywood and cinema, there are a bunch of like landmark events that happened, whether it was the first motion picture with audible sound and dialogue, whether it was the first movie to use color. A lot of people would say that the first Jurassic Park was a movie that kind of opened the doors for a whole new era of stuff like that. But one of the big landmark moments, I think, in the history of cinema that really changed the way movies were made was the formation of George Lucas's company, Industrial Light and Magic. This has been and continues to be the preeminent visual effects house, used by everybody, tons of Academy Awards. They made over 350 films, or at least worked on over 350 films. And the story of their origins is what's being documented in a brand new series simply called Light and Magic. And that series is now coming to, I believe, Disney Plus in a 6-part. Of course it's 6 parts.
Yeah.
Of course it's 6 episodes if it's on Disney Plus.
The climax is going to be way too fast.
Way too fast. They're going to run through it way too quickly. They're going to spend the
And then they
first
made Star
5
Wars.
episodes on the first 3 days of them deciding to make Industrial Light and Magic, and then the following 42 years is going to be wrapped up in 1 episode. But no, seriously, they're doing a docuseries on the formation and the influence of Industrial Light and Magic, and it's being directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who, of course, co-wrote Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Solo, a Star Wars story,
Raiders.
Raiders, The Lost Ark. He's made a whole ton of films, and he's directing this thing. The first trailer for this dropped. And while I will admit that while Disney's been doing a lot of this docu stuff, starting with Mandalorian, then they did that, series of the behind the scenes, the making of Mandalorian. That was great. I don't think any of the other ones they've done since have been all that great. But this looks wonderful. And again, I love the idea that they're looking at Industrial Light and Magic. Again, I think a hallmark and something that changed the way Hollywood can make movies, and especially with what they did with Star Wars and all the behind the scenes stuff about how they made Star Wars come to life. This looks fascinating to me. I cannot wait to watch it. Rob, you had a chance to see this trailer. What did you think?
Well, like you said, John, I mean, as a kid who grew up with Star Wars, Industrial Light and Magic to me was always the epicenter of literally the magic. And I have every issue of Cinefex magazine, and I think ILM started to be on the cover in issue 3 was the Empire, the Tauntaun on the cover. So I've been reading about ILM literally for 45 years, and I love ILM, and they've worked on everything. The work that they did with Cameron. You talked about Jurassic Park, but The Abyss when they created the pseudopod sequence, and the first CG character was in Young Sherlock Holmes, the knight, the stained glass steel knight, the stained glass character in Young Sherlock Holmes. I mean, ILM has literally been at the forefront of R&D for the entire film business for the last 45 years, and these were basically a bunch of hippies that were in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley. And when they started on Star Wars, they're like, how are we going to do this? I don't know. I mean, they didn't know, for like the first year, they had to figure this out. Look at that shot. That's a perfect shot. They came up with the Dykstra Flex camera, John Dykstra's camera, where they could repeat with computer assistance. They could make a camera move exactly the same over and over again using a computer, so they could do multiple exposures and passes to create moving models the way we could never see them before. That's how we got the X-Wing attack on the Death Star at the end of Star Wars. I mean, I can't wait to watch this. To me, John, you could have said, would you rather have like a Scarface-sized, a Tony Montana mountain of cocaine, or you can have this 6-part documentary? What is going to go into your brain faster and make you feel better? I'm like, dude, ILM. All day, every day. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, I'm dying to see it. And again, and Lawrence Kasdan being attached to direct it is so perfect for it, I think. Anyway, Amy, you had a chance to check out this trailer. What did you think about it?
I think it looks great. I think it looks like it's going to be super interesting. Obviously, a story that, is very exciting to just hear all the pieces of. That said, I think I got to give props to Disney Plus. They are unmatched. I loved Imagineering's story. I love that little behind the ride series they do. They can get me to watch a 6-hour commercial for things they own. And I will sit there and just eat it up with a spoon. And I love them for that. I will sit here for 6 hours and then go, yeah, I should rewatch all these movies they own. I will sit there for 6 hours and go, look at the Imagineers. I can't wait to get back to a Disney park. And they make it so goddamn entertaining. I eat that shit up. I love it. Good on them. Good on them. It's brilliant.
That series was great.
It's great.
I haven't watched that one. And everybody tells me I should. Yeah, that's one of the things, because I kind of got over, I didn't like the new docu stuff that they've been producing, so I kind of skipped on the Imagineers one, but I've heard nothing but good things about it.
It's also very drug-like. You just want more. Yep. You watch that Imagineering series and you're like, wow, give me another episode. You just sit there and watch. It's so, you know what? These are admittedly commercials, but the creativeness, the creative endeavors of people is so uplifting when you watch these. Like, they had to make up everything because it didn't exist before. And to me, it celebrates creativity and innovation. Yes, we can be cynical.
Oh, absolutely. And if they were done cynically, I think they would be pretty unwatchable. Yeah, that is totally the beauty of them. Right.
They're really wonderful, but you should imagine. But
did you guys see the Pixar in real life? Those short things where they have like Wall-E going around and people. You haven't seen those little skits on there, where it's kind of like it's not really a prank thing, but they bring these Pixar like a real Wall-E, and he starts going around and
I would bawl my eyes out.
All right, guys, the question is for you. Did you have a chance to see this trailer for Light and Magic? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very excited about watching this. What did you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. Okay, guys. As our next off the top, we have a bit of breaking news. This just came out about 15 minutes ago, and it's sad to hear. One of the Hollywood icons, James Caan, has passed away at the age of 82. Of course, when we think of James Caan, I think most of us will always instantly think of Sonny in The Godfather. He just created such an iconic role. And then for a newer generation, maybe when they think of him, they'll think of him in Elf or in Elf. Elf. Yeah. Elf? No. James Caan was not in Elf. In Elf. But I mean, obviously he helped create what a lot of people believe to be the greatest film of all time in The Godfather. Of course, his son is a successful actor now as well. But yeah, I have not had a chance to catch up to read on the circumstances of his passing, but this guy commanded a room. Like when he spoke and he was in a room, whether he was on a stage or in a live room, I've been in a room with him before. He just commanded attention. You know what I mean? There was something about that with him. Anyway, Rob, I know you are just hearing about this.
Yeah, just now.
Right now, as I'm saying it. But you reflect on the passing and the career of James Caan.
One of my favorite actors, in 1981, Michael Mann's first theatrical movie came out, which was Thief, that he stars in. And he's almost in every frame. And it had such an impression on me because I was with my grandfather. I'd come to Palm Springs for spring break, and I'd never heard profanity the way it was uttered in that movie. And I'm sitting next to my conservative grandfather, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't want to turn and look at him. But the performance of James Caan in Thief is incendiary. It's absolutely explosive, and he's incredible. And before that, my favorite, I had not seen The Godfather. My first experience with James Caan, when I became a fan of his, was 1975's dystopian science fiction thriller directed by Norman Jewison that still today has some of the greatest action sequences ever, and that is, of course, Rollerball, the original Rollerball. Jonathan. I mean, I'm a huge fan of James Caan's, and he's done so much great work in the past. And I'm gonna go home and watch Thief tonight because I love that movie, and any chance to rewatch it is a good one. If you haven't seen Thief, watch it.
You know, it's funny. We've been talking about The Offer lately, and I know that The Offer took creative liberties.
Sure.
But one of the most fascinating scenes to me in The Offer that I am dying to find out if it was real was when they were shooting the scene where the guy who was playing Sonny's sister's husband, and it turned out he was actually an asshole off scene to women in the crew and the cast. And in that iconic scene in The Godfather where Sonny rolls up, drags him into the street and beats the living shit out of him, The Offer portrays that as Caan actually took the actor and beat the living shit out of him because of the way he had heard he was treating the female crew off scene. Ever since I saw that, I remember thinking, I want to find out if James Caan really did that. Because if he did, he is the G. Like he's it. He's the man if he did that. So I don't know if that part of it was true, but if it is, it's like the greatest story in Hollywood history, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, Amy, you're just hearing right now about the passing of James Caan. Your thoughts?
Honestly, just what a legacy to leave behind. I'm going to choose to believe that story's true.
Right.
Just for me. No, but I think, as an actor, just that is the type of legacy you want to leave. Just in one of, if not the greatest movie of all time. And with things like Elf, someone where every generation there's something there that connected with them more likely than not. I just, huge loss, but what a body of work to leave behind.
Yeah, he was. And you know what? There's a lot of YouTube interviews with him. And like you said, he's a commanding presence. He's really fun to listen to.
Right.
So go look up some James Caan interviews. He's great.
And guys, of course, the passing of James Caan at the age of 82. And again, we are just finding out about this, so we don't have much prepared, but we will, I'm sure, talk about the legacy of James Caan in future episodes. All right, guys. Question is, what do you think about when you think about the career of James Caan? For a lot of people, I'm sure it's The Godfather. Maybe it's Rollerball. Maybe it's Elf.
Don't you laugh at Rollerball.
I'm just saying, maybe it's one of those things. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's do one more off the top, and that is this. One of the upcoming Marvel MCU shows that is taking some heat from some people, and I just don't get it because I think it looks freaking awesome. It's She-Hulk. I'm very excited about this one. I mean, it's hard. It's getting more and more difficult for me to be excited about Marvel Disney Plus shows, because other than Ms. Marvel and other than WandaVision, I haven't really been in love with their Disney Plus shows. But this is one that completely has my attention. Now, one of the other things that got my attention was when I found out that Jamil was who's from The Good Place. My wife is addicted to The Good Place. So I've, of course, seen the whole thing. From The Good Place was going to be playing Titania in it. And now we've got our first good look at her. This comes to us from our friends over at CBR. And if you scroll down a bit, Jonathan, there, you're going to see they released some images that we see. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I hate that costume.
Yeah.
I think it looks 7 degrees of awful. And don't get me wrong, I think the character is going to be great. I think the show is going to be great. But yeah, now granted, they could not have really probably gone with, and unfortunately I don't have an image of it here, with the comic book version of it, which a lot of the female characters coming out of that era, where it was the hiked up one-piece bathing suit kind of costume. I get they probably weren't going to go that way. Yeah, I don't like the costume. But that's fine, because I hated Black Lightning's costume. I think it's the worst costume in the history of comic book material, but I love the character and I love the show. So hopefully that'll be the case here. Anyway, Rob, we're getting our first kind of glimpse at Titania. What do you think?
Well, John, I have to concur. I love her. This costume, I don't know if it does her justice, and I don't know if it does the character justice, but I would suspect this costume plays into the kind of person she's playing at first. I mean, I think one of the things about this show, the She-Hulk show, that I'm really looking forward to is the fourth wall breaking, the meta nature of the comic. And I think they're leaning into that. I could see her being like a Housewives of Long Island character. like maybe that's the vibe they're going for. I don't know. But I love her as a performer. And I think whatever she's going to do with that costume is going to be hilarious and worth watching. Perhaps not on first glance, the kind of costume I would have expected.
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
I think everybody needs to just chill out and wait and see on this show, because the things I've heard from the behind the scenes people that I know that have worked on it, it sounds great. I mean, it sounds like it's so much fun and so crazy. Like, I was told at one point that they actually go to the offices of Marvel, and Marvel is Marvel. And it's that kind of self-reflection. So I don't know if that's true, but I hope it is. And this is one of my top 10, John.
Mine too.
I can't wait. I think we're going to get a great show out of it. But of course, the 6th episode is not going to stick the landing.
Yeah, of course it won't. It'll be rushed. It'll be all. Anyway, Amy, you had a chance taking a look here at this image. What do you think about it? Are we missing the point here? Are we missing something? What do you think of it?
If you are, I am too. Because man, someone in the wig department did her dirty. That is, and it's. I want to like it because there is so much there that, like, in essence, is fun, but it looks tacky and not in an intentional way. Like, it kind of looks like what the cosplay of the costume should look like to me.
Right.
It just feels a little cheapy in a way that doesn't feel like
that's
quite
the Target
intentional.
costume in a bag of
exactly.
Are you sure that's her actual costume though? That could just be some part of the show. Maybe she wore it like a lot of.
Well, here's the thing.
Saying she's a wrestler. Maybe that's her weird getup for that part.
If we go back to the image there for a second.
Never.
So if we scroll down, a little bit, we get Tatiana Maslany. By the way, of course, always have to remind everybody, good Canadian girl. It looks kind of clear like it's the same scene.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right? It looks like she's in a courtroom,
yeah.
because if you go back to the first image there, she's in the courtroom. And I mean, so I mean, I don't know. Again, I never get terribly excited when the costume looks great. Like, if a costume looks great, I'm like, that looks awesome.
It's not going to make or break the show.
But it doesn't mean the movie
show's
or the TV show is going to be any good.
Yeah.
And in this case, where I think it looks awful, I'm not going to get too worried about it, because the awful costume doesn't mean the movie or TV show is going to be all that good or bad. But, it is. Ray, you're looking at it. What do you think about the outfit there?
Well, if that's her real outfit, then I guess we get a sense of how the show's going to be.
You think the outfit gives you a sense of how the show's going to be?
Yeah, just because if it's like that, then there's going to be a lot of comedic tones in it, I guess. Like Rob was saying, it's not going to take itself too seriously.
We hope.
We hope.
Well, I mean, the trailer tells us it's going to be comedic. I mean, the trailer tells.
Yeah.
I mean, it's She-Hulk. I mean, if you're not comedic, then you don't understand the character,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, anyway, question is for you guys. What do you think about the costume? I don't like it at all, but I still think the show's going to be great. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to move into our main topics here today. But before we do, we want to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episodes, our friends over at Storyblocks. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of today's video, Storyblocks. Guys, I have been an enthusiastic fan and user of Storyblocks for years. I go to them whenever I'm in need of content creation assets like royalty-free music, video clips, or templates for my creative projects, ranging anywhere from little editorial videos to my very own full-feature documentary. Storyblocks helps you bring your stories, videos, and projects to life without sacrifices due to time, budget, or access to resources. They have over 1 million different story assets ranging from stock videos, audio and music, an in-browser video editor, and they feature pre-designed templates, animations, and outros. Storyblocks uses an affordable subscription model, and their unlimited access plans offers, well, unlimited video and audio downloads rather than a costly pay-per-clip model. With Storyblocks, you'll be able to create more content and, more importantly, better content, all while using a subscription plan that fits your budget, utilizing unlimited downloads of demand-driven and diverse content. So if you're interested in upping your content creation game, head over to www.storyblocks.com/Campea and get started today. That's www.storyblocks.com/Campea. And a big thank you to our friends at Storyblocks for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Once again, guys, remember, when you support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. So we've got the links and the promo codes for our sponsors down in the description of this video. Go and check them out. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into our main topics here today. And how do we select our main topics in the John Campea Show? Well, that's easy. You guys come up with our main topics. So whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you feel we need to cover as a main topic here in the show, just go anytime, 24/7, over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's absolutely free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Amy, what is our first main topic today?
Our first main topic comes to us from Chase. I recently saw that Deadline reported the Duffer Brothers have launched their own studio, Upside Down Pictures, and that they will be producing, among other things, a show adaptation of the Stephen King novel The Talisman, as well as a new adaptation of Death Note. What are your thoughts and opinions on both properties, and what do you think of the news?
All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Chase. And yeah, of course, Stranger Things, firing on all cylinders. They just finished what I consider to be the best season that they've ever had. The Duffer Brothers right now, their name is as hot now as it's ever been, and they're striking while it's good because they just signed a new production deal. They've got their new studio, Upside Down, which is a great name for their production studio, by the way. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And there's a number of things they're talking about, including, Stranger Things spinoffs, a live stage show, whatever. But two interesting things, one in particular, Talisman.
Yeah.
But Death Note. Doing Death Note, a live action Death Note series on Netflix. And if that sounds familiar, and you can smell the stench of failure in the air, you might remember the live action attempt they made at making a Death Note movie. Not good. Didn't turn out so well. But I guess Netflix is thinking, okay, we swung and missed. This is too good of a property for us to pass up on. Let's get the Duffer Brothers to do it, because the Duffer Brothers are going to be doing not a movie, but a series based on it. This comes to us from the good folks over at Joe Blow, who write the following. Netflix is shifting gears and moving ahead with a live action series adaptation of Death Note that will be produced by the Duffer Brothers, the creators of the streaming service's hit series Stranger Things. The Duffers will be producing Death Note through their newly formed company, Upside Down Pictures. Deadline reminds that the original Death Note focused on a bright teenager who discovers a mysterious black notebook that gives him supernatural power over life and death, the latter caused by writing a person's name in a book. The teen becomes intoxicated with power as he decides to cleanse the world of undesirables. As a law enforcement team tries to stop him, they add that the Duffer Brothers Death Note series will be an entirely new take that is not connected to the Adam Wingard feature that they already failed with. And again, that comes to us from Joe Blow. Okay. Number one, the one good thing that came out of that Death Note movie was Willem Dafoe voicing the demon. Right? That was great. That was creepy. It was wonderful. Number two, it shows that you got to do a lot more adaptation, bringing something from one medium to another. Because there were many ways in which the Death Note Netflix movie was quite true to the original story, and it definitely needed more adaptation. Number three, I'm excited that they're doing this. I am. I mean, look, the Death Note story is a really good story, and it's not about a demon. I can't remember what they call this particular kind of demon, but it's not about the demon. It's about it's really about human nature. What do you do if you suddenly had that kind of power? And you could do this. Where do the moral lines get drawn? Who's right? Who's wrong? To me, that's a compelling bit of narrative that you can turn into something really cool against, a fantasy kind of background that this show inhabits. So to take another swing at it, instead of saying, we tried, never mind. To step and take another swing at it, especially since it's not a movie, but rather it's going to be a series. So I think the audience is going to be able to differentiate it. And by the way, I don't think a whole ass ton of people watch the Netflix movie version of it anyway. So you know what? I think this is a worthwhile thing to try at any rate. Rob, you hear about this. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, like you said, the Duffer Brothers strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got one of the hottest TV shows of the last, maybe since Game of Thrones in terms of pop culture zeitgeist penetration. So starting a new studio, and I just want to point out The Talisman was written by Stephen King and Peter Straub. It's a wonderful book. I can't wait to see them adapt it. It's something that people have wanted to see. They've been trying to adapt it for 30 years, 40 years almost. Would love to see that. I think that's a great project for them. It's perfect. I'm sure they're going to direct it. I can imagine that they would not just produce. But Death Note, again, I think they're doing it because they love it. I would imagine that what they needed, not that Adam Wingard didn't love Death Note, but they probably said, I bet Netflix didn't, I bet they went and said, yeah, we'd like to do a Death Note.
I'm sorry, but doesn't that picture look like it's a promo piece for an upcoming documentary on the formation of ABBA? I'm just throwing that out there. Sorry.
It kind of does. No, but
or the Bee Gees.
But I think both Death Note is something that they probably wanted to do, and same with The Talisman. I think those are great projects. Very exciting to see what they're going to come up with. And Upside Down, whatever they do, I'm sure they're going to make a mint.
Amy, what do you think about them doing either The Talisman? I mean, the one that's more interesting to me is Death Note because of the nature of it. But what do you think about this?
Yeah, them doing Stephen King's feels just like such an obvious next move. And that, I guess, would be my only thing is both of these projects seem really interesting. It'll be cool to see if they can sort of, salvage Death Note's legacy and make something great out of that as an adaptation. I just hope down the line they make some more original stuff.
Yes.
Because Stranger Things was such a just fantastic zeitgeist. I will say, for a half second, my brain was like, more adaptations, because Stranger Things is such an amalgamation of all these different things. It took my brain a second. But I'd love to see what they could do, really continuing to push that envelope of what their original stuff looks like. I hope these will be great. I'm very curious to see what they do, but they feel kind of like logical moves for them of okay, what you can do, and let's adapt some things that feel kind of in that wheelhouse. So I'm just hoping down the line Upside Down makes some great original stuff, and maybe it won't live up to a Stranger Things, but I'd love to see what that attempt looks like.
You're right, because what we're hearing about Upside Down right now, the three main things we're here talking about is spin-offs of Stranger Things, Talisman, Death Note, all adaptations. I really do hope that they also on their roadmap have, let's see what else you can create. Something brand new. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Duffer Brothers Upside Down is going to be doing Talisman and, more notable to me, a Death Note live action series. What do you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down into the comment section below and leave those there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. Amy, what is our second main topic today?
Our second main topic today comes to us from Jared Phillips. Screen Rant just posted an article which states Tom Cruise received a base salary of $12.5 million for Top Gun Maverick, but that he stands to make 10% of the movie's first dollar gross with escalators that increase his percentage at certain milestones. Top Gun Maverick has made over $1.1 billion worldwide. Will this movie and the back-end Cruise receives make him the highest paid actor for a single film? Thank you, and bring on the filthy.
All right, so we've obviously been talking a lot lately about how mind-boggling successful Top Gun has been. I mean, a lot of people, me included, said for a long time, I think this movie can do well, but it ain't going to do that well. The window of opportunity for a Top Gun sequel has come and gone. And everybody thought that. I'm just the only one man enough to admit it.
I didn't think, come on. I said on this show.
That would make $1 billion.
I said it would
know.
make 100,000. I mean, I thought it would make 100 million. First, that's what I saw.
So
I didn't know it was going to make $1 billion.
But I mean, everybody else, but I listen, if you would have asked me, I thought the movie would do well, but in no way did I think, like, forget $1 billion. There's no way I thought it would have made 800 million. Like,
Right.
Even when I saw it and I loved it, I still didn't think it would be $1 billion film.
How about a domestic haul of over 400 million?
I know it's crazy. It's absolutely nutty what this thing has done. But the nuttiness continues because you know who else didn't think this thing would make $1 billion? Paramount. Yeah. Because if you're Paramount and you think this movie is going to make $1 billion with a B dollars, you do not sign a first dollar gross, which we'll explain for those of you who don't know what first dollar gross means. We'll explain that in just a second. But you do not sign a first dollar gross, a 10% first dollar gross.
Let's go, Tom.
With your actor, because that is, they taught it in film school, though it's the technical term, shit ton. That is a shit ton of money that you are going to have to pay over. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who write the following about this. According to a new report from Puck News, which is an industry insider newsletter, Cruise could earn close to $100 million from Top Gun Maverick due to his contract. The outlet reports that Cruise was paid $12.5 million, which, by the way, in today, that is a huge salary today.
Yeah.
That 12.5 as a base salary is huge. Anyway.
In the 80s and 90s, though, Jim Carrey was getting paid like $20 million for Cable Guy.
But those numbers have gotten reeled in a lot more. So a 12.5 base salary for something like this was really impressive to start with. But he also stands to make 10% of the movie's first dollar gross with escalators that increases percentage at certain milestones. The star's back-end pay does not kick in until Paramount has earned $125 million in revenue, but that will not be an issue for Cruise's billion-dollar film. Between the theatrical performance and what the movie will earn in rentals and streaming, Puck News estimates an $80 to $90 million payday for Cruises based on Top Gun Maverick. Okay.
That picture's perfect, by the way.
Yeah, that is Tom Cruise's perma-face right now. Looking at the epic win he just had here. Okay, so basically, you know, there are legendary stories about the creative Hollywood bookkeeping. First dollar gross kind of circumvents that because it's not, I get 5% of the profit. No. Whatever it may, I get 10% of that. If it makes $1,000 and it costs you $800 to make it, I don't get 10% of the $200 you made profit. I get 10% of $1,000. Now, this isn't unheard of, but it's not something they use a lot of these days. I think Christopher Nolan had that built into some of his deals. You got to be pretty high up the food chain for that. Now, depending on where that Paramount needs to recoup $125 million first, wherever they set that line becomes effective. But we are talking about 80, 90, I would say $100 to $110 million that Tom Cruise could end up making for this. And if that's the case, if he ends up making that, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that would mean that Tom Cruise probably would set the record for the biggest payday for a single film. Wow. I know Robert Downey Jr. got a whole bunch when it got into the fit. Like we were going, this is ridiculous that an actor makes $50 million for a movie when a surgeon who just saved 5 people's lives last week doesn't make 1/10 of that. But I mean, now we're talking about something could be in the hundreds of millions of dollars range. The stories of win after win for this Top Gun movie continue to mount up. Amy, you're hearing that Tom Cruise, who, by the way, I'd have to go do some math. But if he says, say, makes around, let's say $105 million at the end of the day, I think that would come into the neighborhood of maybe his accumulated salaries over the years. I mean, maybe not totally equal, but he might have just come close to equaling everything he's made in the rest of his career. And like, not counting his career as a producer and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, just career as an actor. But you hear about this, what do you think?
I mean, I'm quick to roll my eyes at celebrity salaries. And I say this as an actor who would love to be making that kind of money. But I'm pretty quick to go like, are you kidding me? Teachers are buying their own colored pencils and you're giving this guy how much? But at the end of the day, it was just a good deal. He just handled it really smartly. And the movie was successful enough. And Lord knows they're making the money. I mean, yeah, the success of this movie, I don't think anyone saw coming. And in a lot of ways, I think his star power and just the quality of the film, for me at least, very much felt like movies are back in a way that I don't know that I fully felt since the pandemic. So at the end of the day, you make that kind of hit, you make that kind of smart business dealing. Good for him.
You know what I could see? Look, I'm totally making this up. This is just a fantasy in my head. But I totally see this is what happened. Tom Cruise and Paramount decided, yeah, we're going to make this movie. Okay, let's talk details. Let's talk financials. And Cruise saying something like, I want $25 million. Ha! You know, whatever, because that's how Tom Cruise talks, of course. He wants $25 million or whatever. And Paramount goes, whoa, time out, Tom. I mean, obviously we can't do this movie without you, but how about this? How about we give you, I don't know, 12.5, and we'll give you, like, if you really believe in this project, Tom, how about we give you 10% first dollar gross? Because again, Paramount thought they had a winner of a film, but they didn't think this movie was going to make $1 billion. Tom Cruise said, okay, and he took it. And now,
I thought Tom Cruise was here for a minute. That impression was
right.
still on the
Wait
money.
a minute, is Tom Cruise in the room?
But remember, he pushed for this not to be on streaming too. So,
well, of course,
good for him.
Now it becomes real damn obvious why Tom Cruise insisted this not go to streaming, because he was going to get 10% of first dollar gross in theaters. And now we know why he fought so damn hard for that. But now Paramount is going, we should have given him the 25 million. We should have given him the 30 million, because now they're going to end up giving him like 100 million. But you know what? Everybody's making money out of this. Sounds good. Rob, you hear about this story? I think this may, if it does work out these numbers, I think it might mean he might become the biggest single payday for one single film for an actor. What do you make of this?
Well, I mean, I remember when Batman came out, there was a lot made of Jack Nicholson and how he made like $65 million because he made. See, the thing is, movie making is so speculative. And we always talk about how it ain't show friends, it's show business. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And like you astutely pointed out, like he made this deal. Like, yeah, you could take the $25 million up front. Tom Cruise bet on himself. He said, you know what? I'll take 12.5. Maybe I could have got 25 million. I'm going to take 12.5 and I want first dollar gross.
10%.
10%, which, and by the way, at the time, who's going to know? Like in no one's wildest imaginings was this $1 billion grossing film.
No chance.
And no matter what analytics you're looking at, no matter, I would have said that they don't know. I would have said, you know what? If I was running Paramount, I would have been like, because this is one of those legacy titles that everybody's watched. It's got 35 years of history on home video. Multi-generations of people have watched it. I would say this is a wild card. Don't look at your current analytics because they don't apply.
Right.
So Tom Cruise did what a lot of creatives, I think, should do more of, which is bet on themselves. And that way you bet on yourself, you know, and I think, yes, he was pushing for putting it in theaters, but I don't think he was pushing it to go in theaters just to make money.
Not just because he's a long-time advocate of the theatrical experience.
Yeah, and they made this film. I mean, he waited years to make this movie. He wanted it seen in the best possible light. And I think that, you know what? This, to me, is one of the great success stories. I love seeing this happen because Paramount also, even though Tom Cruise is getting $100 million or whatever, Paramount also, they got paid too. I mean, because Paramount made a bet. They bet on Cruise. They bet on the movie. So I would see this not as, I wouldn't be cynical about it. I would say that everybody comes out right. this kind of money, this kind of business made your theater owners made money because people were going to the theaters. It brought multi-generations out that might not have gone back to theaters, people in their 40s, 50s, old farts like myself. I mean, I'm already going to the movies, but you have people that weren't going who've gone back to theaters. So this has had a ripple effect throughout the industry. So everybody comes out right when you have success like this. Now, does Tom Cruise get rich? Yep. But
Yeah.
I think deservedly so.
Yeah.
And this is one of the great, this is what people do. I'm sure when Bill Gates, was in his garage working on Microsoft in the mid 80s, he's thinking, I wonder if we're ever going to make any money.
Or Steve Jobs.
Or
Your
Steve
guys'
Jobs, I mean,
impressions are off the chain today.
By the way, have you guys ever seen Ben Stiller do Tom Cruise? Ben Stiller's Tom Cruise is amazing. You should absolutely check it out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. It's another win in the mounting mountain of wins for Top Gun Maverick, in this case, just Tom Cruise specifically. What do you think about this? Do these numbers defy belief? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on now to main topic number 3. Amy, what is our third main topic today?
Our third topic today comes from Atun Ferrelli. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, Amy. Thank you very much. I wanted to get your thoughts on the news that Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon are going to be starring in a new wedding comedy, and it's going to be directed by Nick Stoller, who also directed one of my all-time favorite comedies, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I know we haven't had a truly great Ferrell comedy in a while, but I think this sounds great. What are your thoughts? Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Atun. Okay, yeah, look. First of all, Nick Stoller, Forgetting Sarah Marshall is in my top 10 favorite comedies ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can go back and watch that every year. I love that movie. There's so many different elements. And of course, now I'm not very big on Get Him to the Greek, but I know you're a big fan of Get Him to the Greek. He also
movie.
directed that.
Yeah, I you know what? I think it's one of the great, I guess it's a sequel. It's
In a way,
spin-off.
sort of.
I don't know why, but having a Jeffrey and Pet the Walls, I mean, come on. That movie's hilarious.
And
I'm with you. That movie's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
And then he did Neighbors, which I actually quite like. I like the one he did with Neighbors. So he's got a good comedian. Will Ferrell, I think it's safe to say Will Ferrell kind of represents comedy since the mid-90s to maybe the mid-2010s, right? Like he was the face of what comedy in movies was. Whether it's things like all-time greats like Anchorman, Step Brothers is in my top 5 favorite comedies of all time. I mean, he's just what was the car race? Talladega Nights.
Oh, yeah.
And whatever, of course, his long stretch on Saturday Night Live where they try to have him in every single sketch because when he was in a sketch, ratings went up and all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know if he's done a really funny movie since, well, actually, you know what? Daddy's Home was pretty good. The one he did with Mark Wahlberg, the first one, it got trounced by a lot of people. I finally got around to watching him like, F everybody else. That's a really funny movie. The sequel, but whatever. Will Ferrell is not Will Ferrell anymore. He doesn't carry that same kind of thing. Although his latest series with Paul Rudd, I think it's called The Shrink Next Door, that was pretty damn good.
He was really good in it, too.
Yeah, that was pretty damn good. And he's shown he has some dramatic chops as well. But, the name Will Ferrell no longer carries the weight with comedy movies as it used to. But you tell me that he and Academy Award winner Reese Witherspoon, who's killing it with The Morning Show and a lot of other things, and then you bring in the director of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and it's a wedding comedy. To me, that sounds like there could be a lot of potential. This comes to us from the good folks over at Deadline, who write the following. Amazon has secured the rights to the untitled wedding comedy from writer-director Nick Stoller, which has Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon attached to star. Deadline can confirm Stoller, who recently directed Universal's groundbreaking rom-com Bros, which is slated to release on September 30th, from his and Billy Eichner's script. The other notable credits on the film side include Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Him to the Greek, The 5-Year Engagement, I forgot about that, Neighbors and Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising, and that, of course, comes to us from Deadline. So I'll tell you what, one of the other knocks against it, straight to streaming. But I've liked a lot of Amazon comedy, to be honest with you, so I'm pretty big on them there. But anyway, Amy, you hear about a new comedy coming from Nick with Will Ferrell, Reese Witherspoon. Does this seem to me like, forgettable, dump to streaming, or does it sound like it could be something nice? What do you think?
I think it sounds like it could be a lot of fun. I'm actually really disappointed it's going to streaming.
Me too.
Because I feel like we're really just seeing a death of this kind of like mid-budget comedy. And I feel like getting all these names behind it's like, no, this is such a good opportunity to prove that there is still a market for this theatrically. So that's my biggest bummer about it. Will Ferrell's very hit or miss for me, but I think, with this team attached and I think, seeing Reese Witherspoon in something with him, I'm not quite sure what tonally that'll look like, but I think she could that gives me sort of an impression that it's going to be a little more toned down, which is probably a good thing. Because at this point, it's like, I don't want to feel like Will Ferrell's just trying to do Talladega Nights or Anchorman or Step Brothers again. So I think it could be good. I honestly just wish it was getting a theatrical release.
Rob, what do you make of this?
Look, the trailer for Bros, which is that gay romantic comedy
From Billy Eichner, yeah.
it looks hilarious. And I love, like you said, I love Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek. I like this. And, Reese Witherspoon, this might seem crazy to come from me. I love Legally Blonde. I think Legally Blonde is a great,
it's a perfect movie.
And Reese Witherspoon is a very deft comedic performer. Yeah. I think she's incredible. And as long as Will Ferrell is pulled back, if he's not like, right. And I think if Nick Stoller can keep them on the right track without letting it spin off into oblivion, I'm looking forward to this. Like, I think this could be really good.
Yeah, because Will Ferrell has crossed that line, though, where man-child gets not cute.
Yeah, and what was that? The one where they start the casino in their house?
Oh, the one he did with Amy Poehler.
Yeah, man.
I think it's called The House.
I thought I was waiting. Yeah, The House.
That was awful. That was terrible.
Dude, I wanted that to be good. I love gambling
I love
movies.
Amy Poehler because I'm a huge Parks and Rec guy. But
of course.
The movie that he did with Kevin Hart, too. I was looking forward to that one. And
Hard. Get Hard? Is that I think that was the name? Yeah, that one was also not
much
good.
Better than...
I mean, I feel that, look, I think great comedies don't just need deft performers. They need great directors because the directors have to corral their performers from spinning off into improv oblivion. And I think that this team, it could work. I want Will Ferrell to work.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about the sounds of this? Does it sound like it could be interesting? Do you think it's a movie that's already expired its shelf life? I don't know. What do you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave them there. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move into our fourth and final main topic today. Amy, what is our fourth main topic today?
Our final main topic comes from Cece, who said, Sony, Sony, Sony. A new report has indicated that Kevin Feige warned Sony Pictures not to get too ahead of itself with building its own Spider-Man cinematic universe. What do you think this means? Move on. Thank you for your show.
All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Cece. Yeah. And look, of course, this is one of the most intriguing and has been ever since the day. I still remember exactly where I was. Me, Dennis Zen, and Amy Rose Eisenbach were standing in the foyer of a hotel in Atlanta, Georgia, at an AMC conference. I was a keynote speaker at their annual big convention thing. And it was late at night. We were out down by the bar. A lot of people were gathered out there. And the news broke on our phones that Sony and Marvel had made a deal for Spider-Man to be in the MCU. That Sony, and it was a really interesting deal, that Sony would actually maintain control of the character, still have the rights to it. And the way it was all going to work is very interesting. It has remained one of the most interesting things in the movie industry, as Spider-Man is in the MCU, but he's still controlled by Sony, and Sony gets to make these other movies involving Spider-Man characters. Interesting. Some of the results have been extraordinary. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I don't just believe is like one of the great animated films, I think it's one of the great films in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like in a year where Avengers Endgame and Black Panther came out, I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best comic book movie that year. I believe that to this day. And by the way, they showed us a chunk of Across the Spider-Verse at CinemaCon this year, even a lot of the unfinished animation, and they ain't missing a beat. This looks every bit as good as Into the Spider-Verse did, so I'm very excited about that. Then they did Venom. A lot of the critics didn't like it. I don't give an F. I love that movie. I love the first Venom. The audience response to it made like $800 million at the box office when everybody said, you can't do Venom without Spider-Man. Yes, you can. And it worked. Made tons of money. Everybody was happy. I enjoyed Venom 2. It was not as good as the first Venom. But especially in the COVID era in which it came out, it still did very well financially. I mean, a lot less than the original Venom, but there were other circumstances, of course. That was fine. Morbius, one of my most anticipated films of the year. Woo! That did not turn out so well. So Morbius is Morbius. But we know that Sony loves Kevin Feige. They talk about Kevin Feige all the time. They love their partnership and working with them. Kevin Feige adds his name as an executive producer on a lot of their movies, even though he doesn't functionally really do anything on them. But still, they confer and they talk. Now, this comes to us from the folks over at MovieWeb, who write the following. A new report courtesy of The Ankler reveals that Feige has issued a warning to the studio, that's Sony, regarding their Spider-Man spinoffs. And yes, Marvel's Kevin Feige does weigh in and offer notes on Sony Marvel movies and that don't feature Spider-Man. One insider, I should say, credits Feige for guiding Sony's approach and warning the studio not to get too ahead of itself in terms of building some larger universe in the vein of the Avengers movies. All right. I love that comment because one of the worst things that Sony has ever done, because in my opinion, even though we have Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, Marvel has failed to make the best Spider-Man movie, and they've failed to make the two best Spider-Man movies. Because in my opinion, Sony has made the two best Spider-Man movies in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But the worst thing Sony ever did with Spider-Man was when you got to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I really like the first Amazing Spider-Man. But you get into The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that's where we got our first glimpse that Sony was desperate not to make a great movie, because they had made great movies. Desperate for a big cinematic universe, just like Marvel. And you watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with all these characters, they're clearly just trying to set up Sinister Six, and it was one of the biggest turd drops they ever done. Then they have a couple of wins, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Venom, things like that. They come to Morbius. And what do? History repeats itself. Because after a bad movie and the credits start to roll, the worst post-credit scenes in cinematic history happens. Where once again, Sony showed that they are desperate not to create a great movie, but to create a shared cinematic universe just like Marvel. And they had Vulture flying in, which made no logical sense. We won't go into it right now, but that entire sequence logically made no sense whatsoever. It says, I think we should team up. Yeah, Mike, that sounds great. And again, that's not what
exactly
made...
like that, John. You said exactly like that.
Exactly like that. And it's not like that made Morbius bad. Morbius was a badly made movie. That's all. It doesn't matter how excited I was for it. It was just a badly made movie. Had a few things going for it, but still... just a badly made movie. But Kevin Feige has warned them about getting ahead of themselves. And here's the thing. They've got, coming up now, you might say, hey, since 2018, Venom and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that's not really getting ahead of yourself. But it's their desperation to form some kind of big shared cinematic universe. And here's the thing. They have in development and in production right now, Kraven the Hunter, which I am excited about, Madam Web.
Wait, what?
El Muerto,
Spider-Man.
which I think they went out and cast Bad Bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Again, let's go get a non-actor to play the lead in this role. Whatever.
There's going to be a bet with that movie with me and you. I know it just because.
Hey, you know me, I hope for the best. I hope it's going to be great. And a Venom 3 on top of that. And they've got a couple of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movies coming.
Oh, and Spider-Woman with Olivia Wilde, right? And
Olivia Wilde's working on Spider-Woman. So that's not on their immediate schedule right now, but apparently that's still happening. So they got a lot going on. And the one big concerning thing is, like, I'm not concerned about a bad movie, right? Because to me, Sony went 3 in a row that were quite good, ranging from fantastic to pretty good. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, fantastic. Venom 2, pretty good. And Venom right there in the middle. And then you hit a bad one with Morbius. I'm okay with having the odd bad movie. That's right. But the concerning part was again at the end of Morbius, them showing we're all about trying to create a big shared cinematic universe. And I think they are prioritizing that over just making a good, solid standalone movie, which might be why Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse does so well, because you can't incorporate that into a big shared cinematic universe, at least until Sony finds a way to do it. So, yeah, I hear what he's saying. Anyway, Rob, you hear these comments. What do you make of this situation, and where's the status of Sony, and how do you interpret Kevin Feige's words here?
You know what, John? Ever since I started doing Heroes with you and Schnepp 7 years ago, I created the Burnett axiom, which is never put your universe before your characters. And I see this happening in a lot of franchises because everybody wants to get to Kevin Feige's Avengers Endgame and Infinity War numbers.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. But there's a reason why he got to those numbers. You know, he had to build and build and build. You have to start with your great characters. And Morbius, to me, is a textbook example. First of all, I think that the filmmakers set out to make a movie and the studio balked. They decided we couldn't make an R. Where's the blood in that movie? You know, it's a film that looks to me that it was interfered with in post for whatever reason, that it didn't. You shouldn't be there. You should know exactly.
Just to be clear, though, we have never heard any official account that suggests that there was.
No. I'm just a complete assumption that I'm making, because the film feels like it was interfered with to me. And the thing is, like what Kevin Feige is saying, he's like the E.F. Hutton of building universes for cinema. I mean, he has proven himself time and time again. And while you pointed out the Spider-Man movies that Sony has made, the Raimi Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Into the Spider-Verse, they don't have to deal with their other larger universe. Those movies were, Into the Spider-Verse was unto itself, introducing Miles Morales, and it's beautifully done. Beautifully done on every level. And then Spider-Man 2, coming off of Raimi's Spider-Man 1, this is when superheroes were new. There was X-Men and Spider-Man, that's it. And no one was thinking about building an MCU at this point. It was just like, let's make the best movie we can. The problem is, they're also trying to build a Spider-Verse without Spider-Man in the movies. So all of these characters, like Morbius, while he's fronted his own comics, he's really a secondary character. Kraven the Hunter is cool when he's coming after Spider-Man. But now they're trying to create these characters and turn them into their own, and they have to be, they're like anti-heroes.
And Madam Web.
And Madam Web, too, another example. And the thing is, Morbius, it's like you kind of have to soft pedal him and make him everyone's friend. He's not really bad. He's a hero, sort of. And when you're doing that, you're undercutting the very character that you're trying to adapt, which violates my axiom.
You know what? It almost felt like they were, like they wanted to use as their template Jeff Goldblum's version of The Fly, right? As Morbius, but they were never able to get there or execute it.
That's a great analogy. That I've never heard that. That's a really good. And you know what? That's a perfect example. And what obviously you wouldn't have to, you couldn't end it tragically, but that's a great example. See, people should go look at that. Now, you should be running their universe.
Now, here's the thing. Don't give them any ideas. If I were to walk into a room of 100 average movie fans, right? And I were to walk into them, say before Iron Man, say, is anybody interested here in a Captain America movie? I bet you would have seen a lot of hands go up. Yeah. Any of you guys interested in a Thor movie? I bet you would have seen a decent amount of hands go up. Walk into that same room and say, who here is interested in a Madam Web movie? I don't even know that the comic book fans are going to put their hands up. Who
I don't even know what you're talking about.
And then all the hands go up. Directed by Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yes. Right off Femme Fatale.
You walk into that room and say, who's interested in a Kraven the Hunter? The comic book aware in that crowd would probably raise their hands.
Yeah.
But the average film fans in there are like, who, what? Like, Kevin Feige, he started his building blocks with the most recognizable IP they had available to them. They let themselves be in a position, in the best position possible to succeed when starting out. Sony has to recognize they can't do that. Like, what would have been better for them was to take the most recognizable they've got, which is Venom, and lead off with that, and that worked. Okay, you want to build out from there with what characters you got? Don't bring in Kraven the Hunter in his own movie. have him be what's hunting Venom
100%.
in the next Venom. And then later, maybe you can spin off a Craven movie, right? You have to understand the starting pieces you're given and where to go from there. And it seems like they've just been a bit oblivious to that. And here's hoping they can create some great movies out of it. But man, like if Morbius is anything to go by, I hope they get closer again to Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse and the first Venom than they do with that. Anyway, Amy, you heard what Kevin Feige had to say. What do you think is the fundamental problem here? What do you make of all this?
Well, I think just to kind of piggyback on your point of, these aren't necessarily characters that people are thrilled to see. And I think when you're building things out into a cinematic universe, you then fall into the problem of who wants to see a new Spider-Man movie? And everybody raises their hand and they go, well, because you didn't see Madam Web, you're not going to understand a third of the movie.
Right.
It's I think the fundamental issue with cinematic universes when you're not something like a Marvel where it's like people are seeing every single movie, people are excited about these, there is buzz around them, even if it's maybe not characters they would have gone and seen, thought they would have 10 years ago before all this started hitting. But to me, as a film goer, it starts to get exhausting of, well, if I go see this, am I going to be kind of confused the whole time about what's going on because I didn't go see Morbius or I didn't go see... To me, that just gets exhausting. And when you don't have the franchise sort of recognition to back that up and the fandom to back that up, I think it's a total misfire. Just make a good movie where it's like, I don't know if I care about Madam Web, but if I hear it's great, I'll check it out.
You know what else, Sean? You just made the point. When you ask somebody about Captain America or Thor, in your mind, you kind of can tell what kind of a movie you would get.
Yes.
Like vaguely understand
Yes.
what
Right,
it would
yeah.
be. You ask somebody, what's a Kraven the Hunter movie even going to be? I don't know. Unless he's hunting Spider-Man or hunting Venom, which is a brilliant idea. That's what Venom 3 should actually probably be about. You don't know what it is. You can't even... I mean, you say Top Gun Maverick, people are like, I get it.
Yeah.
You say Star Wars, you say Star Trek, you say Fast and Furious.
You say shark on the 4th of July.
You say, you got a pet. I mean, but people get it. Whereas what is a Morbius movie going to be? Other than the fact, okay, he's a vampire. But what's the story? We don't know.
You asked what Sony's big problem is, and I think their big problem was their biggest win, and that was No Way Home. After they got $1 billion, it felt
$2
like,
billion.
or $2 billion, they smelled that money, and it's like, you know how Marvel is kind of like Sony's like the person, the gambler that lost all their money, and Marvel helped them get back on their feet. And now that they got all this money, they're gonna go back and do the same thing again, probably, and lose it all.
And a lot of these plans were in motion before Spider-Man made $2 billion. And here's the problem with that is that it just seems like when Sony is focused on making a great individual movie, they tend to have pretty good results. Like, say what we will and what I have said about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I don't think is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, but still, I thought the first Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield was great. I really like that.
I did too.
Obviously, the Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, not so good, but Spider-Man 1 and 2 particularly, I still think Spider-Man 2 is still a top 10 greatest comic book film ever made. So they just got to get their attention back to making great single movies. And if you do want to make a shared cinematic universe, which who doesn't? Be smarter. Not this, hey, let's just say Vulture shows up. Why? Not sure. Now let's say he flies. Wait a minute. If you look back at the Spider-Man movie about how he got his technology, that's not applicable here. How does he even have the Vulture suit now? Don't worry about it. And anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about all this? Apparently, even Kevin Feige has warned Sony saying, be careful about trying to do a big shared cinematic universe. What do you think about that whole thing? Jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. Okay, guys, with that down, we're now going to open up the super chat so you guys can start firing in your live comments if you'd like to have us read those off. We're going to do that now, and we'll read those off in just a bit. But before we do, we want to thank another sponsor of today's show. Sam Raimi making sure Spider-Man 2 kept you nice and comfortable and loving your time in the theater. Well, you want to love your time sitting around in your gitch? Good news! Manscaped is here to keep you comfy. We want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. Now, guys, I love Manscaped. You've heard me go on and on about the Lawnmower 4.0 and That body wash, I love it so much. And so we gotta ask, guys, have you started your spring cleaning yet? The carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing, gentlemen. And you guys know Manscaped isn't more than just one product. They have a whole lineup of products to help you guys feeling, smelling, and looking your best. And so Manscaped is proud to present to you the Performance Package 4.0, which is the only tool that you need to keep your boys looking, smelling, and feeling good this spring. Now, to start off with, you get the Lawnmower 4.0. Guys, we have talked about this. What is wrong with us? Why have we for so long been using these terrible tools that were never meant for cutting our hair down there? The razor clipper things on our electric razors. That's barbaric, guys. You need the Lawnmower 4.0. And then there's the Weed Whacker. You guys have heard our own Ray Ora talk about this thing. He loves using it to get that hair in your nose and the ear hair. And then they offer lots of other stuff like the Crop Preserver. It's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. The Crop Reviver. It's a spray-on toner for your balls. And of course, they've got the perfect grooming tool for your face with the Plow 2.0, the perfect razor for the finest shave on that face. So guys, get 20% off plus free shipping with the code CAMPEA. That's CAMPEA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the promo code Campea at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. And a big thank you to our friends at Manscaped for helping us, guys, and for being sponsors of this episode of the John Campea Show. Once again, guys, remember, when you support our sponsors, you're actually supporting our show. Check out the links and the promo codes down in the description of the video. All right. With that down, let's get to your live questions. We're going to start with our channel members. So, Ray, what do we got from our channel members?
Jesse Price says, hey, John and crew, I'm seeing Thor 4 in 5 hours.
Nice.
Nice. Ann and I are going to see it in 5 hours as well. To see it again, this will be our second viewing of it.
Okay, Calvin Severo Panho says, hey, John, love the show. John, do you have any new info about Werewolf by Night, directed by Michael Giacchino, who is of course known as he's a composer. He's a very, very good composer. Now directing this. No, I haven't seen or heard any new news come out about this in a while. Have you heard anything?
No, and I can't wait because his ties to Moon Knight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, Moon Knight debuted in the pages of Werewolf by Night. I can't wait.
And he brings up a point and says, like, Halloween isn't that far from now.
No.
It's coming up, so.
Oh, God, yeah, it's July. You're right. It's not too far away. All right, what's next?
Sorry if I, Cage Crampshy, he says, I was at celebration panel for L&M, Light and Magic. Kasdan said he also conducted interviews, and because he's so close with the OG members, they were very candid and personal.
Well, I mean, that is one of the reasons why when I saw that Lawrence Kasdan was the one actually directing this, I'm like, that's the only person that could have been maybe better was, I mean, wouldn't even have been better, but I would have been maybe equally as interested if, say, John Knoll directed it. Those of you who are insiders, you'll know the name John Knoll, or something like that. But really, I thought he was the perfect name to hear this. Can you think of any other name that may have been as exciting?
Well, like this? Dennis Murin or somebody who's
Murin would have been interesting.
But I think if they're inside ILM, like, John Knoll was the guy who came up with the idea for Rogue One.
Yep,
that's right. His idea.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And I'm glad they got like a filmmaker who would work with ILM, that was aware of ILM, that was sort of outside of ILM, because, a lot of the guys that worked at ILM, I believe, like, ILM's even responsible for Photoshop. Like, that was derived out of the technology that they had created.
Well, John Knoll and his brother are the creators of Photoshop.
Yeah, but I think they did it while they were also working at ILM and Pixar was spun out of Lucasfilm and ILM. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of that. It's all. So I like the fact that they have. Lawrence Kasdan's a perfect guy.
All right, what's next?
One last one is Alexander Kent says, do you think an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie can happen? Could, quote, Sony do their own thing in a separate universe?
No, the way the arrangement is with Marvel, why would Marvel want to make live action Spider-Man movies so Sony's also going to make live action Spider-Man movies? It's not good for either of them. So no. Now again, maybe Marvel's not going to be able to make live action Spider-Man movies anymore, and Sony can start doing that. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't expect to see Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man again, which is unfortunate because he's my personal favorite Spider-Man. All right. With that, that's it for the members. All right, let's get on over to the live questions you guys have been sending in. Amy, what do we got?
First off, we have from Al Renshaw, Morbius had the bones of a good movie.
No, listen, this is one of the reasons why I was excited about a Morbius movie. He had an Academy Award-winning actor, a really intriguing character. There was definitely, you got, who's the Doctor Who they had in it again?
Jared Harris?
No. He was Doctor Who, and he was in the Crown.
Oh, Matt
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 Smith.
Smith.
Right. You had Matt Smith in there. I mean, you had the pieces to make something good, which only adds to the disappointment. All right, what's next?
Thomas BDL says, "Hi, John and team. It seems like For All Mankind is finally getting the traction on social media. In my opinion, it has the best characters of any show at the moment."
You're getting no argument from me or Ray. Right, Ray?
Yeah.
And tonight's another episode. Are they gonna get to Mars tonight? No, I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's again, to me, what's great about For All Mankind is they had this great idea, and they've really thought all aspects of it through, because it's an alternate history. Season 1 was in the 70s, season 2 was in the 80s, season 3 is in the 90s. And not only do they have great characters and great storylines, but they also have a really holistic understanding of this alternate universe they've created. So when you watch it, you really feel like the authors, the writers, Ron Moore and his showrunners, are giving you something they've really thought through. And that's all I look for when I'm looking for great entertainment. Am I getting the best story possible?
And of course, Ronald D. Moore was also the creator and showrunner of my all-time #1 favorite TV show, Battlestar Galactica.
And we're just waiting for that notification to pop up on my phone like last week. Oh, the new episode is ready to watch.
Dude, I can't wait.
All right, we got to keep moving. Here. All right, what's next?
Kara Black says, "Let me expand from yesterday. Vader never gets injured, kills Obi-Wan." Oh, this is the question about.
Right,
Yes.
I remember this.
Okay, cool. Vader never gets injured, kills Obi-Wan. Yoda and Sidious then take Leia and Luke as his dark side apprentices. Would anyone have a chance of defeating the Empire then?
Okay, so that's a totally different thing. Like throwing in there the death of Obi-Wan is a completely different set of scenarios. And then what if Sidious took Luke to be his apprentice? Well, then no. I mean, if you look at the way Star Wars unfolded, I mean, if you go back to the first Star Wars movie, the Death Star was destroyed because Luke was there and communing with the spirit of with Obi-Wan, releasing himself to the Force and then using the Force to guide him to release the magic torpedo that went down an exhaust port. Then that never could have happened. So no, then the Empire wouldn't have been defeated. If the key thing there is if Sidious took Luke to be his apprentice, but that's a big jump in the narrative.
That's also if they knew that, they survived childbirth too, even still.
Yeah. How would, I mean, maybe if you're going to say, well, if in killing Obi-Wan, he learned about Luke, I mean, that changes a lot of different things. So no, the Rebel lines couldn't have won at that point because they would have been destroyed at the Battle of Yavin. All right, what's next?
My Comic Planet said, Taika Waititi to Natalie Portman. Oh, I heard this. "Have you ever wanted to be in a Star Wars movie?" Portman, "I've been in Star Wars movies." Taika, "Oh, I forgot about those ones. Guess Taika's no big fan of prequels."
Yeah, I wish I could forget about him too, Taika. I mean, look, everybody knows I'm not a fan of the prequels. I'm just not. But I know a lot of people who are Star Wars fans are fans of the prequels, and that's how they got into Star Wars movies. That's true. That's great. But yeah, I'm more on Taika's side on this one. All right, what's next?
Caden said, "Game day, folks."
Game day.
By the way, one thing we forgot to mention yesterday on the MCU topic of things upcoming, Thunderbolts. I myself am super stoked for
Yeah,
it.
you're right, but I would still be left off my list. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the potential isn't there. Of course it is, but you're going to be using the scrap characters from a number of the things. And I mean, it could be great. I'm not saying it won't be. I'm just saying that's why it wouldn't be on my most anticipated list.
Also, remember, early on in the MCU, they announced that they were going to make an Inhumans movie.
Yes.
I mean, they had a logo for it. It was on the big
This
big
is
board.
back when Civil War was still thought to be Captain America and the Serpent Society.
That's right. And I think that, as you put it, more tangibility is needed with this Thunderbolts movie.
Yeah.
They want to make it, but where's the tangibility? Show
All
it
right.
to me.
What's next?
Ryder says, THR saying Daredevil and Fisk in Echo with Matt potentially looking for Jessica Jones.
Well, the Jessica Jones thing, that's pure speculation. But I mean, that's not really a story. We talked months ago about the fact that, yeah, we had heard that D'Onofrio and Cox were both going to be in Echo. So now Hollywood Reporter's kind of affirming that, but we've kind of known that for a while. That's why we didn't run it as story takers. We've already talked about this months ago. All right, what's next?
My Comic Planet says, David Harbour said this about Daniel Day-Lewis's method acting. It's silly, dangerous, and it actually doesn't produce good work. Are you kidding me? Lewis is the GOAT due to his method acting.
Yeah, listen, I loved it. I was actually just talking to one of our guys who helps run our business this morning. I was talking to Scott this morning, and we were talking about David Harbour, like before I'd seen this quote. And I really like David Harbour. I mean, his Hellboy movie was such shit, but he really was pretty good in the role.
Yeah.
I love
and
him.
he was the best part of Black Widow. He was. I want to see his standalone Netflix or Disney Plus series. I'll watch the hell out of that. But I'm sorry, if some decent basketball player says Michael Jordan's approach to basketball is just silly, it's nonsense. If some decent football player comes along and says, yeah, Tom Brady's approach to quarterbacking, If somebody comes along, some mid-level fighter comes along and says, George St. Pierre's training techniques really aren't all that good, I'm sorry, I'll take the word of the greatest of all time.
If he had stopped the quote before doesn't produce good results, I think I would agree. I'm just kind of anti-method acting as a concept, but you can't say the man doesn't give a good performance.
I mean,
that's
it's fair to say if you're a performer and actor to say method is not something that will work with who I am as a performer.
Sure.
That if you want to say that, say that. But if I gotta take between you and the greatest of all time, I'm going to side with Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, George St. Pierre. I'm going to side with Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's why I'm here, right here.
That is why Ray's here. So anyway, I mean, listen, again, I'm all for if David Harbour wants to say the method approach is not conducive to the type of performer and who I am as a person. It doesn't work for me. I would get that. Just because it works for Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't mean it's going to work for every actor. Of course not. So I have no problem with that. But to go, oh yeah, the guy who's the greatest guy to ever do it in our business. Yeah, how he does it is wrong. I can't take you seriously at that point. Sorry. All right, but I love David Harbour. Don't get me wrong. I love the dude. All right, what's next?
Are we sure it wasn't misquoted? Was it actually directed? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
were they like, well, it's method acting, like Daniel Day-Lewis does. And then he's like, oh, well, that could be dangerous.
That's true. A lot of people do use method acting. And that's part of what I'm trying to say is a lot of people just use method acting as like an excuse to be a dick.
Yeah,
like
that's
the Jared
true too.
Leto, like, I'm going to harass my coworkers for months.
There's some Jared Leto stories.
Yeah.
So that's true too.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, we got to keep moving here. What's next?
Ryan Lohner said, Rob Reiner wanted a tough actor for Misery to increase the sense of indignity, and James Caan was the only one humble enough to take it. Do we have a second part?
Yeah, it's just right up here. Here we go.
There it is.
The whole movie would fall apart if for a single second you didn't believe he was totally helpless and at Annie's mercy. R.I.P. to one of the greats.
I'm so glad you brought up Misery. I
Yeah, me-
totally should have been talking
Me
about
too.
Misery when we talked about James Caan earlier. James Caan and of course who played
Kathy Bates.
who won an Academy Award for her performance in this
Bro.
movie. I mean, it's one of my favorite kind of movies as well. Single location kind of movies. I love those. Like not 100% single location, but movies like Oscar or Buried or, things like that. That was basically it's kind of one place that this whole story takes place with two actors. And Caan and Bates in that movie, so freaking good. I think it was also prophetic because I think Kathy Bates kind of played 30% of online movie fandom today. That's kind of her.
I'm your number one fan.
Yeah, but you didn't do what I wanted you to do.
You dirty bird.
Not the fans of this channel. You guys are great.
Yeah, you guys are the best. But yeah, I should have brought up Misery. Quick thoughts on Misery.
Dude, it's one of the great, Rob Reiner directed. He also directed Stand By Me, which is another one of the great Stephen King adaptations. And, that movie is such, I think William Goldman wrote the screenplay, adapted the book, if memory serves. It's such an efficient, beautiful adaptation. I read that book in one sitting when I was in college.
Wow.
And I because the book came out in 87, and I think that movie is beautifully done. I mean, even they changed the hobbling scene a little bit in the movie, and made it. Seeing that was one of the most horrific things ever.
To this day,
Dude,
it's
you
horrific.
can't. You think about it, and you're just like, ugh. But the acting, it's a great film. It's two characters,
Yeah.
Going mano y mano or crazy. I mean, it's great. Or fan versus creator.
Yep. All right, what's next?
Seconds from Disaster said, I may be wrong, but if Kamala went back in time, that would have created a branch timeline, not place her in the same timeline's history. Thoughts?
No, it becomes a time paradox in a sense that Rob pointed this out really well in our open spoiler discussion, where that is actually what was supposed to happen.
Right.
Because if she did not go back to get her grandmother to her great grandfather, that would have created a variance.
Yeah.
So it's actually what was supposed to happen by MCU logic.
Like
Take
when
that
she
for instance.
references like the stars, we know this
Exactly.
already happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Morgan Holmes with the $20 super
Thank
chat.
you, Morgan, for supporting us on that level, man.
I'm excited about Blade. Can't wait. They should cast Ray as Whistler, call him Ray Bram Whistler. Well, Ali is killing vamps. Ray Bram is playing Xbox in the corner and making weapons. 2 times winner.
If I was actually Whistler, we would have a very chubby Blade. I'd be cooking the best meal. Ursula wouldn't be able to do any jump kicks. He'd just be at the couch like, shh, 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 shh.
And when he's trying to train you, tell him to sit down and play Halo with
they'll be
you.
like, let's just let them come to us.
It's all good.
I'm not going to search for these people.
I'm going to pitch Chunky Vampire. I think that's one thing Hollywood's missing.
All right, what's next?
Ulatan says the Sony produced live action Spider-Verse movies so far give me canon film quality vibes.
Really? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse gives you canon?
Well, I don't think I think that's outside.
The live.
But
Yeah.
the first Venom made over 800 million, big crowd pleaser. I mean, again, I know it is the cool thing to pile on Sony movies, and they have certainly earned that on a couple of their outings. Absolutely. But the problem with fandom today is we become immediacy blind, where we see what has happened right in front of us and then we forget about everything else. And I honestly think if you sit down and pick up the judges' scorecards, Sony has more wins than losses. But when they lose, they lose spectacularly. And when they make a bad movie, they go right for it.
Sony hasn't made their Steel yet.
No, they have not made their Steel yet. I like
Or
that.
Catwoman, directed by Pitoff.
Oh, God.
They haven't gone that far.
All right, what's next?
Amin says Elvis, Bohemian Rhapsody, or Rocket Man.
Ooh.
I haven't seen any.
You know what? It's actually, these are 3 good movies. To me, it's actually a fairly easy answer to that. Bohemian Rhapsody.
Really?
Yeah, I was shocked how much I like that movie.
I was shocked how much I hated it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I hate that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I really liked Rocket Man. Taron Egerton was great in that. I really liked it. I liked Elvis very much. But I thought Bohemian Rhapsody was the better one. What about you?
I think that Elvis and Rocket Man are much more stylized approaches, whereas Bohemian
Sure,
Rhapsody
yeah.
is more naturalistic. So I think Bohemian Rhapsody, no offense,
You're
I probably,
entitled to your
of the
opinion.
3, probably like that the most. But on the other hand, I think that Elvis is the biggest cinematic accomplishment, if that makes sense.
I mean, I mean, that's standard for Baz Luhrmann, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Baz Luhrmann is just incredible. So what are the 3? I mean, clearly it's not Bohemian Rhapsody.
No.
So what does end up being your favorite out of those?
Oh, that's so tough because for me, it's obviously it's going to be between Rocket Man and Elvis. I would say for me, for my personal opinion, it's going to kind of fall into that like Rocket Man was a better movie, but I think I personally had more fun with Elvis.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, I like that.
Nicholas Clark says, John, love the show. You crushed my Community movie dreams yesterday. So I thought I'd let you know the Leafs are in talks to acquire Matt Murray, 55 years and counting, from a dear Habs fan. LOL, all in fun.
Yeah, listen, if I'm going to be a Leafs fan, I deserve every shot. Again, the Toronto Maple Leafs have not been to the Stanley Cup Finals while I've drawn breath on this earth. They've never been there. Forget when. They've never been there as long as I've been alive. It is, I think, one of the biggest stretches of futility in professional sports.
Have you ever considered that your personal existence is cursing them?
It might be. The day I was born, something went wrong over at Maple Leaf Gardens. Now, of course, the drought started a few years before I was born. But again, so I don't know, man. Yeah. So I really thought that this was the year. They were ahead 3-2 against the Lightning. They lost, and the Lightning went on to the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah, if they had been able to finish that off, they would have gone to the Stanley Cup Finals.
But they've been a contender the past couple seasons, right? You could at least
They've been knocked out in the first round.
Oh.
I mean, until you get to the semifinals, I don't consider you a contender, but I really did think this was the year. But turns out it wasn't.
But does everyone make the playoffs?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you can at least have that.
At least they've made the playoffs, but they've missed the playoffs more times than they've made the playoffs in my lifetime. All right, what's next?
Enrique Caceres says, I love Lamb.
Steve Carell is the best. By the way, Jon Stewart was recently granted the Peabody?
I just watched that. No, the Mark Twain Award.
The Mark was recently given the Mark Twain Award, and the Who's Who came out too. That's Jonathan quick on the grab there. Got that Steve Carell thing up. But a bunch of people, Dave Chappelle gave a big speech. John Oliver gave a big speech.
Pete Davidson was pretty funny. And then Steve Carell, who of course worked on the Late Show or the Daily Show. Yeah, the Daily Show.
And Carell's speech just slayed me. Like I just died. Steve Carell, he might be my favorite guy in movies right now. Other than maybe Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Reynolds is like my favorite my favorite movie star right now. But I think right beside him might be Steve Carell. He can do drama. Like him on the morning show. He was so good, and the ending of his character is like, whoa, I love the guy. I think he's great.
Dude, I have an unhealthy obsession with The Big Short.
Yeah.
He plays Mark Baum.
Yep.
And
the 40-Year-Old Virgin is my all-time favorite comedy.
He is so good. But I want, just like I want Matthew Good to play Robert Evans in a whole series, I would watch a movie about Mark Baum. I mean, I don't know what the movie would be, but he's so good as that nebbishy character who's confronting this financial apocalypse. I love Steve Carell.
All right, what's next?
Jay Bling said, this is speculation, but I can't help but feel like Madam Web is going to juggle too many spider-adjacent characters at risk of being a jumbled mess.
I still think there is a chance that this is not a Madam Web movie. I honestly, I heard some whispers. I put this up on Twitter actually a couple weeks ago. I have heard some whispers, although I have found no supporting evidence of it. I've found no supporting evidence of it. But I've heard some whispers that this Madam Web project isn't even a Madam Web movie. It's something else. Likened unto Captain America and the Serpent Society wasn't that at all. It was actually Civil War. Again, I have found no evidence to back up the whispers that I've heard at all.
Play those games though.
But when you look at the casting, you're like,
yeah, true.
That's Madam Web?
Yeah.
That's not the Madam Web
Well,
I know, but
also, to be honest, I mean, jokes aside, who really cares?
you're right.
If you want to make
joke itself.
if you want to do a Black Cat, Silver Sable movie or whatever, or you want to do a much higher profile Marvel project, call it Madam Web. No one gives a flying F about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, as you know, I literally forgot that we were talking about it before we started the show 5 minutes after we were just talking about it. That's how come. I mean.
All right, what's next?
Al Rencha said, I would love to see Cruise take another stab at another superhero or supernatural type of movie. His last attempt with Mummy was not good.
Listen, I did not hate The Mummy. I didn't hate it. It wasn't particularly good. But again, I thought it had several things going for it. I thought there were several elements about it worked. And when I walked out of that movie, I thought, well, that wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, I didn't think it was terrible. What did you guys think of it?
I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan, and I love horror. And I thought that movie was supremely disappointing on a number of levels. Tom Cruise did the best he could, as always. I think that it didn't have the right director in Alex Kurtzman. He didn't have the chops. He was working with a movie star. He's not J.J. Abrams, who did a good job with Mission Impossible 3. And I think it suffered from the wrong personnel at the top, dealing with an actor that they weren't used to dealing with. And I think it became a rudderless mess. But it wasn't horrible. It was watchable.
What did you think about it, Amy?
I actually didn't catch it. I think like many of my generation, I was like, I don't want a mummy movie that's not Brendan Fraser.
I get it. All right.
You know what? Oh, thank you for that actual person who sent in that question. I actually want to see that movie now after this Top Gun, Tom Cruise love hype.
You're going to go back and watch The Mummy?
Yeah, I want to go watch The Mummy. I'm going to try to find
You know what? I mean, I think this is a movie you would like. I actually think you would like this film.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Amin said, which performance do you think was better, Austin Butler or Rami Malek? And if they were both nominated for an Oscar in the same year, who wins?
I thought Austin Butler was brilliant. If the Academy Awards were being held tomorrow, I think he's a shoo-in for a nomination. I am going to go Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody. He did win the Academy Award for Best Actor that year. I think Austin Butler will be in the running. But yeah, he's brilliant in it, but I'm going to lean towards Rami Malek on that. Rob?
That's tough. I might have to go with Austin Butler only because I think that if this makes any sense, that Elvis is a harder person to portray than Freddie Mercury, I think, and of the transition in his life, whereas Rami Malek was perfect as Freddie Mercury, believed him utterly. But Austin Butler also sang all the young Elvis stuff and then made that transition. That's a tough call, man.
All right.
Well, and not only is Freddie Mercury, like Freddie Mercury is absolutely an icon, but Elvis is an icon in like a different way. Like just to your point, I agree that it's like pulling off young Elvis and old Elvis and yeah.
All right, what's next?
Reese Jones says, remember She-Hulk is 9 episodes, not 6.
Yes.
18 minutes each. Yep. I don't know that.
3 of the episodes are just close-ups on Jamil's costume.
Yeah, so here's hoping. I think this show looks so good. I hope it's good. All right, what's next?
Kara Black said, I'm not sure if this has been brought up, but I find it ironic that a family-friendly company like Disney actually showed Vader brutally slashing and murdering children instead of George Lucas.
Like instead of murdering George Lucas? Oh, instead of George Lucas showing it.
Disney was
There
when
a little
they...
disclaimer before the episode.
Was there?
Yeah. I remember it because I was like, that's weird. I wonder what they're going to show in this one because they never show it. They're like, the following something is, I don't know, graphic.
Brings new meaning to the snap.
I mean, but here's the thing. What Disney will and won't show is sometimes very confusing to me. Like, I mean, on the one hand, like, granted, there's not gratuitous visuals, but I mean, in Infinity War, you literally had half the population murdered.
I mean, that's just American culture, though, isn't it? We'll show that, but they had to, like, fuzz out the butt in Splash when it came to Disney+.
Yeah, this is bizarre. But, John, when half the population of the universe was murdered, it was quiet.
Yeah.
It was kind of
It's just
serene.
dust.
This is NBD.
Dusty. It's just dusty.
It was very Kansas.
All right, what's next?
Ty Burton said, R.I.P. to the legend, James Caan.
Yeah, again, I wonder, we were talking while we were on our break during the sponsor spot, but I wonder if the reason we didn't see him come on stage with Francis Ford Coppola at the Academy Awards when they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Godfather, because you had Pacino, you had De Niro. I wonder why James Caan did. I wonder if he's been ill for. That's just me speculating. I have no idea, but yeah, he was an absolute legend. All right, what's next?
Jay Master said, Disney Plus has revealed the official title for the National Treasure series called National Treasure: Edge of History.
You know, we were just talking about how Sony's big problem. They're trying to create a big shared cinematic universe. But I actually think this is something that is appropriate and works. This, of course, new show that they're doing is going to tie in to the Nicolas Cage thing. As a matter of fact, we have a recurring character from the Nicolas Cage movies that's also going to be in this one, played by the same actor. The guy who played the fourth member of the Wolf Pack in Hangover. I can't remember the actor's name, unfortunately. But for something like this, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie to you and pretend like I have a huge amount of interest in this show. I don't, but I am curious, and I'm definitely going to check it out.
Me too.
And it's a good title. That's a good title.
I think it is.
All right, what's next?
My Comic Planet said, one of my favorite James Caan roles was in the movie Misery. Little known fact, Caan had to stay in bed for 15 weeks of shooting.
15 weeks. My goodness.
How many times do you think he fell asleep?
Oh man, that sounds like the oh, man.
And how do I get paid for that?
Wake you up for you shoot for a couple of minutes, you go back to bed while they reset the lights.
They told him he could leave. He was just like,
I'm good.
No problem.
I'm good.
Talk
All
about
good.
method. You could just stay up all night and you go to work and sleep.
And by the way, because it is an older movie, I'm sure there's a lot of you guys watching it right now that have never watched Misery. Do yourself a favor. Grab your significant other or a couple of buddies, get some food, hang out, and just
what a
plan night.
romantic date night.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best. But I mean, somebody you love watching movies with. Order some food, get some drinks, sit down, and set a night aside to watch Misery. It's such a great movie. It's such a great movie.
You know why I didn't see it? Because I remember those trailers a little bit when they were on the TV. There's a part where you see his legs. I think the front of his legs.
That's
and
the
she's
scene.
Oh, yeah,
she's about to
dude.
strike down. That's
the scene we were talking about.
action, I said that I will never watch that movie. I remember it in my head, and it kept replaying.
It's
in
one
my
of the
head.
most memorable scenes in movie history. It
traumatizing.
seriously is.
Ugh.
You should watch it, Ray.
Yeah, you really should.
It's really good.
All right, what's next?
Up next, Film Code Podcast said, just watched a film with Michelle Yeoh, Constance Wu, Henry Golding, and Gemma Chan. No clue if it was good. I was too distracted.
Oh, by
Oh,
all
you're
the
talking.
beauty.
That's Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
I was so delighted by that movie.
Yep.
I remember sitting down, and again, we've been talking a lot about Ms. Marvel, about how you go into a different culture, but they do their job really well if you experience the differences in the culture, but underneath it all, you realize we all have the same human story. It's all like, we have that mother, we have that. And Crazy Rich Asians is one of the films that does that, where it's not just cultural, it's also socioeconomic, like a big different background, but you realize these are the same dynamics at play. And that is a funny, charming, it's the movie to me that really made me, like, Henry Golding is a star.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like, because it was in a real short window of time that I saw him in that, and then I saw him in A Simple Favor, which he was so good in. Then he should have been great in Snake Eyes.
But it also,
That movie's
Crazy
so
Rich
bad.
Asians does have one of these tropes that I really don't like in movies, where you're the dude and you're a douche, and you've got the perfect woman who you're married to, but somehow you can't quite put it together. Gemma Chan's husband. I'm like, bro, I want to step into that movie and take your place right now.
Now, in the books, I was subjected to listening to the actual original books because Anne loved the movie, so she got all the Audible books. So we would be driving, she'd be listening to that over and over again. They go a little bit more into thing like he resented the fact that she was more wealthy than him and more power, and there were other issues, and then their relationship gets real filled with drama a little bit later on, like after they separate. There's like some really cool stuff that goes on there. But I mean, I don't know, to regular mortal men, it's like, wait a minute, you're married to Gemma Chan, and you leave that? Excuse me?
And you're more, I mean, she's richer than you?
Yeah.
What's the problem? Like, come on. I would say that's a score.
We call that
My
a
mom's
lottery.
like, marry a rich woman, Rob. I'm like, how is that supposed to work? They're not going to give you their money.
All right, what's next?
Seconds from Disaster said, I didn't like the new episode of Ms. Marvel. It was great till it came back to present time, which was the worst this show has been. I still feel this show could have just been a story of Kamala. And furthermore,
There it is.
learning of her lineage, who she is without a villain. The MCU action took me out of the show. Life should have been the antagonist. Do you think Marvel needs to have a villain in every property?
Well, listen, every story needs an antagonist, whether the antagonist is man or nature, right? There has to be something that the hero or the protagonist of the story is confronted against, right? So that needs to be a part of a story. That could be man against nature, man against self, man against man. And there's different ways you can approach that. I agree that once we got out of, the past in this episode, the rest of the episode became very disjointed. But being in the past was the majority of the episode, which is why I still quite like the episode overall, right? Like that was all great storytelling, great characters. It was tender. It was beautiful. And the twist of it about Kamala being in the past, I thought that all worked extremely well. And if the episode ended right there, I would have thought this is one of the better episodes of Ms. Marvel. But then it went on for another 10 or 15 minutes and it kind of came off the wheels there.
I honestly feel like a big part of the Marvel issue, for me at least, is overcomplicated antagonist. Not just that you have one, but like feels like they're setting up to bring in maybe something else in this last episode. And it was my one big complaint about WandaVision. It's like you have like 3 villains. It's like Wanda's the villain. This is the villain. That's the villain. I'm worried Ms. Marvel's setting up for a similar like one too many factors going on when just sticking with Kamala was
well, they
what
have
was
16
interesting.
minutes to do it.
Right.
It's Mephisto, man.
Has there ever been a movie where just nothing happens and they're just chill?
I'm sure.
The closest to it,
Yeah.
the
Where there's-
closest to it is actually a movie I absolutely love, and that's Buried. Where when I say nothing happens, The Buried is a movie where a
Right,
guy,
okay, I remember.
it starts with a guy waking up in a box, and the entire movie takes place in that box.
The villain is the box.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
I mean, there is a conflict there, though.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, action-wise, nothing happens.
Yeah.
He talks on the phone to somebody. He moves around a little bit, but he's in a little box buried 6 feet underground. And
Door
the
dashes.
no other actor,
I'm here.
Location, bye.
no other actor, nobody else in the film, just that person in the box. And I actually loved it. But again, you're right. There is still a conflict
Yeah.
there, right? So there you go. All right, what's
even,
next?
even less with that would be My Dinner with Andre, which is like Wallace Shawn, and it's literally just them having a conversation at dinner.
Yeah.
So
All
there
right,
you
what's
go.
next?
Lucy, Lucky BX says, "Hi crew, why does everyone want a T'Challa recast, which I'm down for, but not a General Ross recast?"
I'm totally fine. But here's the problem. General Ross was never an important character in the MCU. I mean, General Ross popped up, did a couple of significant things, but General Ross was never a cornerstone piece of the MCU, ever. T'Challa is.
Yeah.
T'Challa, the name of the movie is him. That's it. Oh, John, the Black Panther is the title of. I get it, but for our purposes, T'Challa is Black Panther. So now we're gonna again. So with and I'm totally good if they want to recast Thunderbolt Ross. I'm totally good with that if they want to do that and if they want to continue with Thunderbolt Ross. But why some people might feel more strongly about one than the other is because one is a cornerstone, key, important title character in the MCU, while one is a character that would pop up now and again to add some dimension. But so it's a different situation. All right, what's next?
Stubble McShave said, "Elvis cost $85 million and has so far brought in just over $120 million. It has still to open in South Korea and South America. Do you think it will break even?"
Well, it's still making money in North America too. Let's not
Yeah.
forget that. So at 120 million, you're roughly looking at, with about a $30 million ad spend, you're talking about around $200 million it needs to make to break even. Depending on the legs it has and whatever in the other international markets, it can.
Has it opened all over the world?
No, there's still some international markets that hasn't
Not
opened
just
in
those
yet.
two, but I mean the UK and there's
But I
a
think
lot
the
of-
bigger markets it has. So
Okay.
we'll see how it does. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Official Friend Zone said, "Who do you
I
think
used to live there.
who do you think the Sony Spider-Man will be? Tom, Andrew, or brand new Spider-Man we haven't seen yet?" I think it will be Andrew.
It'll be Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Sony. What's her name? It was the boss,
Amy?
producer of the film.
Oh, Amy Pascal.
Amy Pascal. Amy Pascal's already been very clear. Tom's going to be our Spider-Man. They may not have a deal yet. I bet they do, but they may not have a deal yet, but they will. And so, by the way, we don't know that they're not going to be more Spider-Man in the MCU movies. We don't know that they're not going to extend that deal. But if Sony starts making standalone Spider-Man movies again, I have very, very little doubt it'll be Tom. Very little doubt. All right, what's next?
Nerd Jen said, "Hey John, although when I first mentioned this character's possible appearance in TLAT,
I don't know what that is.
oh good, I thought it was just me. I believe you stated he would be inconsequential. He certainly will have a huge role in the next Thor film. Oh, Thor: Love and Thunder.
TLT.
Well, all I'll say is this. Well, obviously, I cannot mention who they're talking about. All I'll say is this. We have seen several times somebody or something happen in a post-credit scene that ended up being very inconsequential later on, or barely used or barely touched. So I don't really think that suggests anything, but I really did love that post-credit scene, and I hope it leads to something, so we'll see. All right, what's next?
Tim Platt said,
And just a quick thing, and their appearance, we can't see who it is, their appearance was very inconsequential to the movie. It was just a post-credit scene, but let's see what it leads to. All right, what's next?
Tim Platt said, "Jackass Forever is my third favorite movie of the year. So yeah, I am amped for Thor. # bring on the silly."
I really liked Not only did I love watching this most recent Jackass movie, not quite as much as I like Jackass 3. I think I equally liked watching it with Ray Ora, because watching the movie with Ray was an absolute experience. The number of times he literally had to get up from his seat and walk like out of the theater for a bit and then come back in, and how many times he had his face like this.
This is gonna rack my head, but is there a connection to Jackass and Thor that I'm missing here?
I think just
Oh, no,
silly
about the
humor.
silly comedy and
okay,
silly
okay,
humor and stuff
A
like
lot
that.
of hammers in each movie.
A lot of hammers. All right, what's next?
Angel Leon said, "Who would win in a fight, Homelander or Superman?"
Superman. That's easy. Yeah, no questions asked. All right, what's next?
Hero 75 said, "As a fan of the Imagineering story, Light and Magic looks great. I wish Disney did more of this. What other behind the scenes looks would you like Disney to do? For me, it's the Muppets." Ooh, yeah.
That'd be good.
Muppets would be good. I would honestly love to see a true, almost in a documentary, not a fake documentary, almost in the Offer kind of style. I would love to see a making of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I would love to see a making of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That would be
Why
amazing.
was there a lot of drama behind that, or
No, but when you look at all the
Why
moving
that one?
pieces that were happening at that time, that George Lucas was kind of on top of the world at that time with Star Wars, trying to do something other than Star Wars. You had Steven Spielberg, who was already a very well-established, very well-respected director, who saw THX and said, "I hate that guy is better than me." I love that line. Hearing Steven Spielberg tell that story. And then you had Spielberg and George Lucas working together, which was like the mega powers of Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan
And
making
also-
a tag team.
Spielberg was coming off a big bomb in 1941.
1941, yep.
And Lucas is like, look, you can't go over schedule. You can't shoot things forever the way you did. So Spielberg actually had to promise Lucas that, okay, I won't go over. And part of that economic way of shooting made Raiders as good as it was.
And don't forget, it would have been the biggest thing ever. They were pitched a massive curveball last second that their star backed out. Their star that they had lined up, signed, ready to go. They had built it around him. All of a sudden, last second, Tom Selleck's out because he had a previous commitment that they enacted their option on a contract to make this little show called Magnum PI. So all of a sudden, Tom Selleck was out. So they're like, is Harrison available?
Yeah.
Tom Selleck
Yep.
was supposed to be Indiana
Yeah.
Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to
Oh,
be Tom Selleck. And then last second, they had to go. So I would love to see a making of Raiders of the
And
Lost
that
Ark.
would be actually, now that you say that, I'm like, that'd be good.
That would be fun. All right, what's next?
P. Dot said, the Hollywood Reporter confirms Daredevil Kingpin being an Echo, also addressed Jessica Jones. Rumors were Daredevil searching for Jessica Jones
we
in
did
it, and Mayor Kingpin. I'm excited.
I think some of that was speculation on their part. Again, we talked months ago that we had already heard, and we had communicated and reported to you guys months ago that both Charlie Cox and D'Onofrio were going to be there. So not a lot new there, and some speculation. All right, what's next?
Up next, we got Taki75. I saw Morbius, and it was obvious to me that it was butchered in the editing room, and the post-credits were obviously filmed after No Way Home.
Again, speculation.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't see a lot in the content that tells me that it was butchered in the editing room. I don't know that it wasn't butchered in the script. Like I'm like, it's just, there are some movies you watch where you're like, oh, that one scene was great and that one scene was great and all this. I don't see anything that tells me that even without the editing room, there was a good movie there. I mean, that's how bad Morbius, and you know me, it was one of my most anticipated of the year. I don't see anything there to say that it was great until it got to the editing room. But that's just me. That's just my take on it. All right, what's next?
Blue Flame Studios said, R.I.P. James Caan. Unfortunately, a great actor has passed away.
So good, brought everything that he could. I mean, again, going from something like The Godfather and then doing something like Elf. And he's great in both. And he had that kind of range and that kind of power. And
I mean,
yeah.
but that career, Godfather's 50 years old this week.
Yeah.
This year. And he had such a great body of work.
Yep.
So
Even
good.
before Godfather, he was pretty respected and stuff like that. So absolutely. All right, what's next?
Bobby Jackson said, well, it looks like San Diego Comic-Con is coming back strong. I'm looking forward to Black Adam being in Hall H on Saturday, but really want to see the William Shatner panel in Hall H on Thursday.
Listen, I'll tell you what. The lineup Disney is bringing 18 properties.
Yeah.
18 properties.
Can we have that meeting again?
Yeah, I mean, we of course made the decision to not go to Comic-Con this year.
But you wouldn't have been Holly.
And I don't know, maybe that was the wrong decision. But
Yeah.
Listen, there's some pretty cool stuff. Again, it kind of highlights, you know what's not going to be there? Flash.
Us.
Flash ain't going to be there. And us. We're not going to be there either. All right, what's next?
Raymond Verrata says Hollywood Reporter said Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are returning to Echo. Thoughts?
Again, we talked about that months ago, so not really a story for us. All right, what's next?
The Robo producer said Top Gun Maverick, Rob specifically, but everyone else as well, dethroning Avatar.
Like, will at the end of the day, will Avatar make more money than Top Gun? That is a very difficult question to ask because, number one, we have seen Top Gun. We know how good Top Gun is. We know how good it isn't. Like, we know how high that bar is. We know everything about it, and we know how much money it made and blah, blah.
Or is the question dethroning Avatar's, like, number one?
Oh, the
spot.
original Avatar.
Yeah.
Like Endgame, the complete Avatars.
No, that's the
got a
movie.
long
The
way to
movie is
go.
more than $2 billion away from Avatar.
Yeah,
So no.
that's
Well,
impossible.
they're talking about this year's
Okay.
Avatar. So listen, for all we know, this Avatar movie is the greatest movie ever made, or for all we know, this Avatar movie is the worst movie ever made. So but look, so I'll say, all other things being equal, Avatar 2 will make more than $1.1 billion.
Yeah.
It's not going to make close to $3 billion like the first Avatar did, I don't think, but it will make more than $1 billion. Again, but I will change my mind on that if I go to see it at some press screening and say, that movie was shit. People aren't going to go back to watch that 2 and 3 times. But if it's as good as the first Avatar, that's the number one box office movie of all time. Of course it's going to make more than $1.1 billion. I don't know,
Not
Rob,
going
what
to
do you
bet
think?
against Jimmy C.
Yeah. That is like
Not ever.
Fool's errand betting against James Cameron.
Yeah.
I know, Ray, you got a bet in there you want to make?
It's close enough. I think Avatar doesn't make more than Top Gun Maverick.
Now, remember, the first Avatar made close to $3 billion. You don't think this one will make more than 1.1?
I'm just taking the bet because I know Mighty Jane Hot Toy is going to be announced, and I need that.
I need that money. I need that thing. All right, what's next?
Up next, we got Out of Time 1985. John! Funko just released new U2 Zoo TV pops.
Oh.
What is
I'll-
that? Oh, YouTube Zoo.
Yeah, U2 Zoo TV. That's
Okay.
one of their tours.
Also, I just started watching For All Mankind, and I'm loving it on season 1, episode 6.
Ooh, you're going to love the next 4 episodes are great.
And I'm going to get those Funko Pop. Of course, U2 is my all-time favorite band. I think they're the greatest band in history. All right, what's next?
Up next, we got Jay saying, Hi, John and crew. When was the beginning of TV shows moving from 20-plus episode formats to the short format viewing? One of my favorite all-time TV shows was 24.
You guys.
And
Did they get it? There it is.
I feel like it was more satisfying completing a season, even with fillers. Do you think TV will ever go back to long format again? If no, why not?
The shorter formats started coming in with the cable stuff, with the HBOs, and then particularly with the streaming stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
I remember Boardwalk Empire was one of the first ones that I really got into that had shorter amount of seasons. I'm not a fan of the shorter seasons. I like longer seasons. Supernatural, I ate up every single episode. When Smallville was on, eat up every single episode of Smallville. When Seinfeld was on, watch every single episode of Seinfeld. When Parks and Rec was on, eat up every single episode of Parks and Rec. If you have a good set of characters and some good stories and whatever, you can make shows that long. But there's something to be said if you want to put a whole ass ton of money into a shorter season and stuff like that. You can make some stuff there. Again, I'm just personally a fan of longer seasons. That's just me.
Well, the business model of TV has completely changed.
It has,
I mean,
yeah.
the reason those are longer seasons, I mean, even something like Star Trek The Next Generation was a 26-episode season. Sitcoms sometimes are even longer because the broadcast season was traditionally September through the end of May or beginning of June. So you had to fill those up because that's how the model of broadcast TV worked. With cable, like you pointed out, it was no longer commercial driven. So it was subscription based.
And that's a huge deal. That's a great observation, man. All right, what's next?
Rafael Castillo said, Strange New Worlds finale. I laughed with joy when Kirk appeared. Super fun episode.
Well, thanks, Ralph. I haven't seen it yet. But but I knew his brother was there, so I figured he was floating around somewhere.
now you got something
I
to
haven't
look
seen it
forward
yet.
to.
I will get caught up on that, though. All right, what's next?
Cincinnati's 5-star barbers said, game day.
Game day.
Game day.
Or IMAX 7:00 p.m. baby. Oh, Rob, I have a dope sci-fi poster to send you. I'll be too busy tomorrow, so have a great weekend, everybody.
Slide in my DMs and I'll send you my address.
And of course, Cincinnati 5-star barber. He sent you some stuff too, didn't he, Ray?
Yeah, he did. He actually found the jersey I was looking for, the white. I'm getting ready for this next season, and he sent me shorts that I guess Joe Mixon gave him.
You know, one day we have to go to Cincinnati and we're all going to have to get our hair cut.
Oh, you know what we're talking? We're talking about getting some tickets to go to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas to see them play the Raiders.
Oh, hopefully they come back.
All right, what's next?
Jumping over elephant faces said, I've been missing out on Billions. My joint.
You know what? That's a show that I've watched tons of clips on YouTube of, and I'm always telling myself, I got to watch this show. I've never gotten around, but I've heard nothing but amazing things, so I got to get into it. Paul Giamatti apparently is fantastic.
Yeah.
In it. All right, what's next?
Living with Dameron says, is it more expensive to pay for director duos? For instance, do the Russo brothers make the same individually as, say, a John Watts, or do they split? It's actually a good
I will tell
question.
you, a couple of buddies of mine who no longer direct films together, but they made a bunch of films together. Mark Neveldine, Brian Taylor. I believe they got paid for one, if I'm not mistaken. I think for the first couple of movies they did, they got paid the director payment for it, and they split it between the two. I believe that's what they did. I can double check with that, but I think that's what happened.
I think
with
you're
that.
absolutely right about that. It's a line item on it, but you couldn't double the director fee.
Right.
I mean,
Because they're doing the same job, ultimately.
Yeah, it's got to be a thing that they chose to direct together.
Now, once you get the status
Yeah.
of a Russo brothers or why am I freezing on the Matrix?
Wachowski.
The Wachowskis, or once you get to a certain status, maybe you can start bumping that up a bit, but I doubt it's just director fee times 2. But I don't know. All right, good question though.
I love the mental image of the Coens Venmoing each other. They're half.
Okay, I got the payment. I'll send you half. Here you go. All right, what's next?
Sybil McShave said, I love James Caan in The Godfather and Misery.
Hey, yeah, just about everything he appeared in, he was always made such a presence, man. All right, what's
Bada
next?
bing, right over your
Yeah, right over your fancy suit.
J Master with the
J Master,
$20
thank you,
super
man.
chat. Breaking news, The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio will return as Daredevil and Kingpin in the Disney Plus Echo series. Also, She-Hulk Attorney at Law will be a 9-episode series.
Yeah, and again, we've discussed all that already. And yeah, I'm very excited that number one, we heard that, of course, that Dameron, not Poe Dameron, Andor, thank you. That Andor is going to be a 12-episode season. Great. And hearing that this is She-Hulk's going to be 9 is awesome.
emulating
Breaking the 6-episode
WandaVision,
curse.
which I think is
Yep,
good. Going back to their first show, which worked great.
Yeah. So now, as long as this, again, I was joking, but as long as it's not 18-minute episodes, that's going to be awesome.
Sounds
All right,
like
what's
a
next?
lot of people are getting hyped for this Echo show, finally.
Yeah, I'm still not excited about it.
No,
Yeah, I'm not excited about it. All right, what's next?
The unbearable weight of being attractive said, Ray, I hope your back is okay from carrying the show.
This is Ray Ora's world, man. We're just living
Yeah, we
in it.
are. We just hang out.
We just live in it.
I love jokes.
That's why we're all in here at 10 o'clock in the morning, and Ray saunters in here at 10:29,
And
1
we
minute
say,
before the
thank
show
you,
starts.
sir.
I know that red carpet.
The masseuse,
Say hi. I just turn my back. And
the masseuse that jumps in when he's not on camera. This is his world, man. All right, what's next?
Andy said Superman and Lois showrunner Todd Helbing said he wanted SNL to be separate from the rest of the Arrowverse so he could have creative freedom and not
It's not that, Andy. It's
Right. Oh, okay.
Right here.
Okay.
have to keep track of 7 other shows in the Arrowverse. John, this is your exact philosophy with keeping the DCEU and Arrowverse separate early on.
Andy, I love hearing that. That is my favorite comment. That's exactly what I've been talking about shared cinematic universe between movie franchises and television. Because now none of your showrunners or filmmakers really truly have creative freedom. Because you can only do things as long as they line up with what's happening in all these other things. And I said, why not take these handcuffs off your creators and just let them tell their stories? and they don't have to worry about it. Well, in this, I want Superman to try to save Baltimore, but he gets there too late and half of Baltimore blows up. Well, you can't, because in the other movie we're in Baltimore and it's not half blown up. So you can't do that. That's just a hyperbole example, but that's my point. So I'm very excited to get back into Superman Lois since I found out it's been completely separated from the rest of Arrowverse. All right, what's next?
Up at Adams said She-Hulk is set to be 9 episodes, but shorter length like WandaVision makes me way more excited.
Yeah, but shorter length is not shorter than Ms. Marvel. It's shorter than like the hour-long episodes of a lot of other things, which again, with the kind of the comedic element, I'm kind of half expecting, but like I'm just really happy to hear this 9 episodes.
I think 9 like 30-minute episodes could work great for something like that. It could work great if you structure it right. All right, what's next? Andy said, after finishing Umbrella Academy Season 3, I think it's fair to say that Luther is the personification of, oh my God, what are you doing, Steven?
Haven't finished watching it, so I can't comment on it for it. I'm 4 episodes in. I'm going to watch episode 5 tomorrow. Can't tonight because I'm seeing Thor. And, of course, the season finale of The Boys. All right, what's next?
Eric Benson says, hey, John and company. I was watching Yellowstone this past weekend. Can't wait for season 5 this November. My question for you guys is, what makes it one of the best shows on TV? Is it about cowboys and ranching?
It's about none of that.
Or it's about cowboys and ranching?
No, see, that's the thing. The Boys, what makes The Boys brilliant is not Vought. It's not the bonkers things that happen. It's not even the fact that they're superheroes. That's just the background. That's the context. What makes Yellowstone so great is not the ranching, is not the cowboying. That's not what makes it great. What makes it great is you have amazing characters. That's what makes your show. That's why Succession is so good. That's why Yellowstone is, in my opinion, the best show on TV right now. It's these incredible characters.
And metaphorically, the stakes are really high to each of these characters.
Yes.
They could end up losing their lives, losing their livelihoods, or in most cases, losing their souls.
And their legacies.
Yes, and that's what we're dealing with. I mean, you're dealing with the most Shakespearean, the largest of storytelling canvases.
All right, we're running out of time here. Actually, we're over time already, so we're going to have to move pretty quickly here. So what's next?
Let's do it. Steven Stepp says, will we ever get a live-action Treasure Planet?
I don't believe so, but hey, listen, whenever you ask ever, the answer should be yes, because a lot of things can happen in 10 years. All right, what's next?
Gilbert Garcia says, hey, John, been watching since the WandaVision days. In about 2 hours, I'm about to watch Thor Love and Thunder, and I can't wait.
To me, still the gold standard of Marvel on TV is WandaVision. Still the best thing they did. Super high caliber thing. And I hope you enjoy Thor. Again, we're going to have an open spoiler discussion on Sunday. Hope you join us for that. All right, what's next?
Scotty Hale says, hey, crew, has anyone watched The Bear with Jeremy Lake White from Shameless? It is on Hulu. Really great stuff about kitchen comedy. I really want to see it.
This is the second person in the last 24 hours who's asked me about this show, and I knew nothing about it.
He's
looked it up.
So good in Shameless.
And got me watching it. Number one, this should not be called a comedy. It has some funny moments, but this is not a comedy. Because I remember I sat down and watched it with Ann the first time she's playing it. And I'm like, she goes, it's a comedy on Hulu, blah, blah. And like a lot of dramatic stuff is happening. I'm like, and I said out loud, this is so funny. And like, it's not a comedy. Yeah. But it's really good. It's really good. I quite enjoy it. And there are some definitely moments of levity, but I wouldn't qualify this show as a comedy at all, but it's really, really good. Check it out if you get a chance. All right, what's next?
Al Renshaw says, Ray, as Aragon, the towers have been lit. Ray calls for aid. Oh, aid. Thank you. Aid. Internet as Theoden, the army of Ray shall answer. Assemble the troops. We ride for Gondor. Someone make that meme. We stand with Ray.
That's
Tell
a
you,
meme.
So that video I put up the other day has made Ray like an international hero. He's like the spirit animal of everybody in the world right now. That's a perfect meme to make. All right. What's next?
Andy said, remember when there were reports of Sony talking about making an Aunt May film and how much John Schnepp hilariously complained about it?
Yeah, that was hilarious. First, Aunt May. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. You know, in a terrible John Schnepp impersonation, sitting there on stage goes, well, what's happening? The people sitting around Sony getting high going, you know what we should do? Aunt May. And like, it was one of the greatest moments ever. Yes, apparently that never actually did happen. But yeah, there was talks at some point of them doing an Aunt May spinoff, which if we had known Marissa Tomei was going to be Aunt May,
right?
Maybe we would have been a little bit more okay with
that. We just all watch her like go get groceries and shit. We'd be like, love it.
Love it. Her jumping on Tinder, trying to get a dating life going. Would have been great. All right, what's next?
To Folly. Vulture said, Vulture going to show up animated in Across the Spider-Verse and say, hope the food's better here.
Oh, God. Yeah, what a line that was. Well, by the way, Vulture is in Across the Spider-Verse, but it's not the Michael Keaton one, just so you know. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really good. All right, what's next?
Luis Enrique de la Peña said, I'm rewatching one MCU film per day all this month until I finish all 28 movies. Today is the first Thor's turn.
Oh, God, I love that first movie so much.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, it's just Kenneth Branagh. He didn't make a movie about Norse gods. He made a movie about a father and his sons. That's what he made, and I love it on that level. And some of the humor in it was so great. To me, second most underrated comic book film of all time. All right, what's next?
Queen Bee sending in a $3 super chat. Thank you, Queen Bee. Anubis Genocide said, I really liked this week's episode of Miss Marvel, and I think it's because I watched, is it Triple R?
Yep,
is that what we're going with? RRR over the weekend because it made the partition stuff hit harder.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Ann and I, we had to run some errands last night, and we left. I said, you know, there's this movie my audience is really wanting me to watch. Maybe we should start watching it tonight. And Ann goes, is it RRR? I'm like, yeah. She goes, I almost started watching that today. So I said, okay, let's start watching when we get home. But it's a 3-hour movie. And I need to start writing show notes by around 8:30 at night. And by the time we got home, it was already like 7:55. I'm like, we'll have to do it another day this week. But I came this close to watching it last night, but we just had too many errands to run last night. Soon, Triple R. All right, what's next?
Bobby Jackson said, Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that Kingpin and Daredevil will be in the end of the series. Does this raise your anticipation level for the series?
No, not at all, because we knew they were going to be in there for a long time. So, yeah. All right.
Bobby Jackson also says, Rob, what are your quick thoughts on the Strange New World season finale?
No such thing. We're going to skip right over that question because we don't need to ask because we all know what the answer is. All right, what's next?
It's a long answer.
Roy L. said, I love Con and Alienation and series Las Vegas.
And yeah, you listen, I actually like Las Vegas. I like that.
It was good.
Yeah, it was good. I was somebody who's like going to Vegas and stuff like that.
Alienation, the movie, he was good in it, but you know what? The TV series was actually better than the movie, I thought.
I don't remember the TV series.
The TV
I remember it
series
being
was
there. I just don't really remember
Gary
it.
Graham, who also played Saval in Star Trek Enterprise, he was in it. He was quite good. The series is quite good. I really like that series. But the movie's interesting. Gail Leonard produced it.
All right, what's next?
Suthius said, okay, did you all go out into the multiverse and grab an 838 Perry Nemiroff? She's a fave of mine. Amy reminds me so much of her. I hope she stays and perhaps can sit beside Mr. C. We'd have 4 pundits daily.
I mean,
What,
somebody
she's going to take my seat?
Somebody else mentioned to me the other day.
People asked. I don't know.
saw somebody else write that they thought Amy reminded them of Perry, and I'm like, I don't see that. And then I watched some video of the show. I'm like, actually, yeah, she does. You do kind of have some of the mannerisms and beats of a Perry Nemiroff. So yeah, I started to see that myself.
That's a good thing, by the way.
That's a good thing, by the way. Yeah,
so you know.
That's a good thing. All right, what's next?
I'll take it. Rafael Castillo said, I may watch Rollerball or Thief tonight in Khan's honor. A man's man kind of actor like Steve McQueen or Yul Brynner.
I like the Yul Brynner comparison, actually.
First of all, Raphael, you may watch them. I would say watch them both because they're both incredible. And by the way, Rollerball is one of the most underrated science fiction movies ever made, and it's basically come true.
All right, what's next?
We got Up and Adam saying, seeing Thor 4 in Kingston, Ontario. Love you guys.
I had a cottage in Kingston, Ontario. Right there was Big Rito and Little Rito Lake, which is right by Kingston. I love that area. Beautiful. Hope you have a good time with it tonight, man. All right, what's next?
Anthony Alvarado said, new Flash actor potential Joseph Quinn, Eddie Stranger Things. Your thoughts?
X-actor and X-role, don't really care about those. I mean, as long as they're a good actor, sure. Do you see there's a huge movement to get Elliot
Page.
Elliot Page, as like a huge online movement to get Elliot Page. Again, I don't really care about actor and X-role. It's just as long as you get a talented performance, that's all I care about.
But can you imagine if a Flash could shred hard metal on a guitar, how fast that would be? I mean,
yeah, I know you don't care, but I'm for it.
Speed metal.
New definition of speed metal.
Force metal. All right,
yeah. We have Andy, Thor Love and Thunder is 69% again on Rotten Tomatoes for a minute.
That's exactly where you cannot convince me that Taika Waititi did not arrange for this movie to have a 69. I'm 100% guaranteeing it. All right. Do we have some more membership questions come in here, Ray?
Yes. We got one from Ritwick. He says, hello, John and crew. Watched Thor 4 twice today. With cousins and friends, we laughed and cheered, and emotional parts really got me. This movie worked for me.
Again, this movie is going to be a hell of a good time for a lot of people. Yeah. And for some people whose sensitivities and sensibilities don't really clue in with the silly humor and stuff like that, it's not going to be as enjoyable. And that's totally cool. It's going to work for some really well, like it did for you. It's not going to work for some others. And it worked for me. I had a very good time with it. I'm glad you had a good time with it. But just be aware, if you go to see it, if your sensibilities aren't in tune more with some of the more, I would say Monty Python, sillier kind of humor, it probably won't be for you, and that's totally okay. All right, what's next?
Okay, Pickles Churton says, Bohemian Rhapsody had me in tears and is my all-time favorite movie as I was at Live Aid in 1985.
Oh, wow.
And Remy was so good.
I'll tell you what, did you ever see the YouTube video where they created a split screen showing the actual Live Aid concert and then the Bohemian Rhapsody recreation of it? It's stunning.
Yeah.
Like, it is really stunning.
That was the first thing they shot in the movie, too.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the first thing they shot.
That's kind of amazing that they did
concert.
That. Anyway, that was really good. Is that it?
No, we got one. We're going to finish it off with Tara Jefferson. She says, the chemistry between James Caan and Mandy Patinkin
Yep.
in Alien Nation is amazing. I will miss Mr. Caan's work. May he rest in peace.
I mean, again, this is going to be a great opportunity for us to, in the coming days, to really look back at the great work that he's given us. He is truly an icon in the business, and he will be missed. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in Super Chats, number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so much for your support. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. We hope you guys will come back. Click on that subscribe button, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment. All these things help the channel out as you do. So for everybody in the room here, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, Amy Newman, Ray Ora, producer Jonathan Voico running the show, and myself, I'm John Campea. That'll do it for us for now, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.